Twin City, Cincinnati, Ohio, for a playoff caliber matchup as the Reds host the Dodgers on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Winners of 5 of their last 6, Joey Votto and the re-energized Reds have a division crown in their sights. Tonight, they look for this series sweep against one of the game's best pitchers, Dodgers lefty Clayton Kershaw. Welcome to downtown Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark, the home of the Reds, who are looking to complete a sweep of the Los Angeles Dodgers after a couple of one-run victories already this weekend. The Dodgers in a very good spot, way up in the National League West. Still have 70 games, mind you, left against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Reds are hoping to pick up some ground on the Pirates, who lost to the Cardinals in the very exciting and congested National League Central race. Hi, everybody. Dan Schulman, Oral Hershiser, and with us this week, Hall of Famer, Cincinnati native, Cincinnati Red, Barry Larkin. Barry, the Reds have been a little up and down, kind of always lurking throughout the season. They picked a pretty good time to play some of their best baseball right now.
They certainly have, and you know, timing is absolutely everything, especially for the Reds right now on this homestand alone. They were able to beat the Cardinals for 3 out of 4 games, and if they can win this game tonight, they won the first 2 games of this series, but if they can be the best pitcher in the game tonight in Kershaw, they have to feel pretty good about their chances.
And they have to feel pretty good about some of the moves they've made in September. You always hear baseball is not just a 25-man sport. You use more guys than that, and Dusty Baker's made a very good use of his expanded roster in September. He's got a secret weapon, doesn't he, Buster?
That's right, and his name is Billy Hamilton, who stole 230 bases in the minor leagues the last 2 seasons. And since he was promoted last week, he's been used as a pinch runner 4 different times and stolen second base each time. His appearances in games here in Cincinnati have become an event. Dodgers left fielder Carl Crawford, who knows something about speed, told me he runs like a deer, Dan.
All right, Buster, we'll look for him possibly in a pinch running role again tonight. That assumes, of course, the Reds get some men on tonight against maybe the best pitcher in the game in Clayton Kershaw.
I think he is the best pitcher in the game, but he's coming off of one of his worst outings. He gave up 11 hits in his last outing. The Dodgers need him to respond. But all that entailed, the ERA at 1.89, it'd be his 3rd consecutive year leading not only the league, but Major League Baseball in ERA. 4th consecutive year with over 200 strikeouts with 3 dominant pitches, the fastball, the curveball, and the slider. And the gain of command since the beginning of his career, that whip now below 1. This is, Dan, the best pitcher in the game.
2 teams headed for October. Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers taking on Joey Votto and the Cincinnati Reds when we come back.
And the World Championship belongs to the Reds.
The Dodgers are world champions.
Welcome to ESPN's presentation of the iShares by BlackRock. Hunt for October. September. A streak can get you in. A slump can take it all away. This is the month that decides everything. Every home run, every K, every web gem will help decide who goes on and who goes home. Baseball's pennant race on ESPN.
Welcome back and ready for baseball here in Cincinnati as we check out the Dodger lineup, brought to you by Taco Bell. And Yasiel Puig, of course, has done so much for the Dodgers in his 3 months in the big leagues. Hit a home run yesterday, one of the top rookies in baseball this year. Adrian Gonzalez with some monster numbers against tonight's starting pitcher for the Reds, 27-year-old right-hander Homer Bailey, a man who has 2 career no-hitters to his credit, including one this year. He will face Carl Crawford, Yasiel Puig, and then Adrian Gonzalez here in the top of the first, and we are ready to go here in Cincinnati.
Right there, an example of Homer Bailey's growth as a 27-year-old pitcher. Has an outstanding year going ERA and strikeout-wise, but that first pitch breaking ball, he can fall in love with the fastball, but not as he's matured.
And Crawford bunts right through it. The count is 0-2. Crawford missed about 5 weeks earlier this season with a hamstring pull, hitting .290 on the season, and very hot recently, hitting over .390 in his last 7 games. The Dodgers, though, come in here having lost 3 in a row, one to Colorado and then the first 2 here to the Reds. And that's something, Barry, they haven't done since June. They have been crazy hot, at least until the last 3 days.
And not an area of concern. Certainly you want to try to win each series, so they're not going to have a chance to win this series, but certainly you don't want to get swept at this point. They have such a lead right now. It's about getting all your guys healthy, getting everybody playing good baseball when that time comes when they go to the postseason, because, oh yes, they are going.
And Homer Bailey with an impressive first at bat against Carl Crawford.
And Homer Bailey throwing the whole kitchen sink to the first batter, but Crawford's such a good fastball hitter. The only fastball they showed him was up and in, 0-2. There's a nice little changeup right here, gets him out front, and also dives enough to miss the bat.
10-10 on the season. A little misleading, though. His other numbers suggest he should have a much better win-loss record than that. And here is Puig, hitting .347, and as mentioned, hit a home run yesterday.
And Earl, you mentioned the maturation process of Homer Bailey, a young pitcher, a pitcher who has come into his own. I've always thought that there were certain points during a game where you could really see the makeup of a pitcher. That would be the first inning, of course, because it's about harnessing your emotion and going out there and executing your pitches. And then it was time to finish. You know, late in the ball game, when you have a chance to finish a game, how do you go about executing your pitches at that point? The fact that he's throwing the curveballs early, everyone knows he has that 92 to 97 mile an hour fastball. The fact that he's throwing those breaking balls early in the game, it tells you something.
It's a good sign.
And here's another guy, maybe like Homer Bailey in certain ways a few years ago, a world of ability, but still trying to harness some things. And
he's laid off 2 pretty good pitches already. Yeah. So, you know, the one thing about harnessing your emotions, anytime you have a young player like Yasiel Puig, you see the pitches around the zone. He hits, definitely, he likes to swing at that first pitch fastball, didn't get it, didn't swing at it. So now you can see, I've talked to you during the season, Don Mattingly, I've talked to you about being more patient, I've talked to you about becoming a better player, and maybe it's starting to manifest itself out there on the field. But you look at bats like this and you go, okay, this kid is listening to what I'm telling him. He's becoming a better player.
The talent is obvious. The energy and the intensity is something that everybody talks about. But has he learned from his mistakes? Is he understanding how pitchers are now trying to work him and set him up? And it's a work in progress, but obviously the positives have far outweighed the negatives over the last 3 months for the Dodgers. And a ground ball down to third. Frazier gets him by a step, 2 down. So a good start for Bailey, but now he will face a guy who has his number in Adrian Gonzalez. And by the way, had 4 hits in yesterday's game for the Dodgers, although they lost the game. But Gonzalez 9 for 18, 5 home runs in his career against Homer Bailey.
And Adrian Gonzalez, when he's going well, he's a very patient hitter. Homer Bailey, I watched some of the video of the damage that he's done over Homer Bailey. It was early in his career where he got a lot of pitches out over the plate. Of course, he's got his hot zone all over the place at this particular point, but he's very patient until he gets a ball into an area that he likes to hit.
And a strike at the knees, 1-1.
It's a different Homer Bailey on the mound than the one that Adrian Gonzalez owned, now that those 2 fastballs down by the knee, and not just knee high, but at the hollow of the knee where he can live now.
Good changeup, 1-2.
We talked to Dusty Baker before the game and asked him about Homer Bailey, and he said, you know what? When he throws the fastball up now, it's for a purpose, and he knows how to keep it down by the knees, and it set up that changeup perfectly.
A well-located fastball at 96 that Gonzalez fouls off.
I love the fact that he came back with the fastball and has kept the ball away. He's got 2 out, nobody on. There'll be later in the game where he might have to get Adrian out in a key situation. So why show him all your possible bullets to strike him out now? Go ahead and just give him his base hit to left if he wants it, or just get him out in one way.
And a mile-high fly ball into shallow right field. And a very good inning for Homer Bailey. The Dodgers go in order. Clayton Kershaw to the mound when we come back to Cincinnati. Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by iShares by BlackRock. Visit iShares.com to learn more. And by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men, and Viagra. Bottom of the first here at Great American Ballpark, and the Cincinnati Reds are ready to take their hacks at Clayton Kershaw. A look at the Reds starting lineup tonight, presented by Taco Bell. And they've got 2 hitters who do something as well as anybody in baseball. Shin-Soo Choo, second in the National League in on-base percentage this year. The only guy who's better is his teammate Joey Votto, who's got a .432 on-base percentage. And driving him in more often than not is Brandon Phillips, who's already got 101 RBIs on the season, second in the National League. On the mound, the Cy Young Award favorite, you would have to say, at this point of the season, Clayton Kershaw.
And a winner of that award 2 years ago, second last year to R.A. Dickey, and this guy can really dominate a lineup. going for his 3rd ERA title, not of just the National League, consecutively in the major leagues, which has only been done by Lefty Grove and Greg Maddux.
He finds himself on some pretty impressive lists for a guy who's only 25 years old, what he's accomplished already. Here is Chu in his first and perhaps only season as a Red, free agent at the end of the year, hitting .289, 20 homers.
You know, Dan, all those stats and all those stats are impressive about Clayton Kershaw, but what I know as a hitter, if I'm facing him, is he has been struggling as of late. So I'm in there getting all the video that I can, trying to figure out if there are any patterns, if there's anything that I could take advantage of to give me a better chance, because he does have the numbers. But it's all about timing, and what have you done for me recently? And what he has done is struggle. So let's take advantage of that if we're an offensive team facing it.
Yeah, in his last start against Colorado, he actually got the win in a 10-8 slugfest, but he went only 5 innings, gave up 11 hits. That's the most hits he's ever given up in a big league start, allowed 5 runs.
For that kind of anomaly, something had to happen. He either was terrible or they got a little lucky, and watching the game, 4 or 5 of those hits were very lucky, just happened to find holes.
Spoken like a true pitcher right
there. You were trying to convince the hitters that he wasn't going to be tough tonight.
Well, when you're facing a guy like Clayton Kershaw, you have to play the mind game. Absolutely. There you have the cat and mouse.
Up and in, 3 balls, 2 strikes on Chu, who's been hit 23 times this year. He's walked 95 times. That's how you get an on-base percentage of .421. So he has been a very good table setter, although he's not your prototypical leadoff hitter. Did he go? He did not. And he draws the leadoff walk.
Well, that's what you want your number one. That's what you want your number 1 guy to do. You can see right here, very good eye, and that ball's a little bit elevated. You're not catching up to that anyway. Not too happy about that, Oak.
No, you have a rough outing as a pitcher and you have your side work. You think you got it all together. The last thing you dreamt about was walking the leadoff hitter.
The leadoff man aboard, and here's Chris Heisey getting a start in left field tonight. Normally Ryan Ludwig would be out there, but Ludwig doesn't hit lefties very well, even though he's a right-handed batter, and doesn't hit Kershaw very well. So Heisey gets a start, and this 2 spot in the order has been a much discussed part of the Reds offense this year. Brandon Phillips has been hitting there recently, just for about a week and a half, but they haven't really found a regular who's been productive in that 2 spot other than when Phillips has been there. And so you've got the .420 on base percentage and the .430 on base percentage, and then you got a .280 on base percentage in the 2 spot.
Well, that 2 spot is that complimentary spot. You know, the issue is normally when you get your number 1 hitter on base so often, and he just got picked off first base, so he's no longer there. But you get a guy out there so often, the idea is that he is going to be able to go from first to third or still second base.
Kershaw helping his own cause in a different way, picking off a runner.
He is quite an athlete on the mound, and he's very quick here with his feet and then with the snap throw.
Got it. Drops in a curveball, 1-2 on Heisey. Kershaw's a guy who does make good plays defensively, good pickoff move, pretty good hitter as well. We saw him hit a home run against the Giants on opening day this year. Another curveball, swing and a miss, 2 down.
Nice little adjustment by Clayton Kershaw and A.J. Ellis, the catcher behind the plate. He's been missing up with the fastball, so they come with back-to-back curveballs to get his release point out in front, get the ball down.
Now Votto. Joey Votto was, by his standards, mired in a pretty deep slump. He was in an 0 for 13, a 12 for 67, going back further than that. But in this series so far, he's 4 for 4 with 5 walks. He's been on base all 9 times in this series and had a big home run Friday night. There's been a lot of talk about Votto doesn't have enough RBIs. He's not producing enough, but had a 2-run homer in the 5th inning Friday night that gave the Reds the lead they would enjoy for the rest of the night. A 3-2 win Friday, a 4-3 win yesterday.
Well, 66 ribbies from your number 3 hitter, typically that's not enough. That's not good enough, especially when you have Brandon Phillips with over 100 RBIs. But You know, this guy, Joey Votto, is a hitter that likes to get on base. He gets on base a lot. That's his job, and he's doing it quite well.
Retired for the first time in the series as Kershaw has a good inning. Hanley Ramirez will lead off the second for the Dodgers when we come back. Well, in late June, it looked like it was going to be a lost season for the LA Dodgers, but then they got hot in a hurry, and so many different things started going well for them. Of course, Yasiel Puig, who came up in early June, has been an energizer and a force for them, but he's not the only reason things have turned around. Hanley Ramirez, when he's been healthy, has been as good as any player in the National League. The top three in the rotation have been absolutely great for the Dodgers, and the bullpen, they shuffled some pieces in the bullpen in June as well. Kenley Jansen took over as the closer at that time, and he's been about as good as any closer in baseball over the last 2.5 months. And that, folks, is how you go 53-16 since June the 22nd. The Dodgers have gone from last, 9.5 behind Arizona, to first, 11.5 up on Arizona, with now just 3 weeks left in the season.
I still say it's that Yasiel Puig phenomenon. I think the tone that he brought. Now, certainly he's not out there pitching and doing all the other things, but I thought that this team was really listless earlier in the season. He came about, and he just kind of set a tone of the way that they're supposed to play. And although he's made plenty of mistakes, I think everyone was energized off him coming to the big leagues here. Just my thoughts, though. I'm saying the pitchers as well.
No, I think you're right. I think you raised the bar.
Yeah.
And Hanley Ramirez has Yasiel Puig type talent. Hanley Ramirez has actually been better since Puig came up. Absolutely. Not only better himself, but better than Puig statistically.
If Ramirez had been healthy all season and produced at this level, which is a big if, he's probably the front runner for the MVP in the National League, right? But he's been hurt a couple of times. Had the thumb injury suffered in the WBC, the hamstring injury. So he's missed 52 games. But everybody says not only is he playing great, that's obvious, but he's been a good citizen. He's been happy. He's been doing what they want him to do, which wasn't always his reputation with the Marlins.
Well, Ricky Nolasco played with him when he was in Miami, and Ricky had some interesting things to say about Hanley and how different a player he is over with the Dodgers.
Getting on a winner, getting in a place where you think you might want to spend a few more years will do that for you, as he fouls a ball off his foot or his leg. Had his hand on his knee. We'll have to get a look at the replay and see exactly where that ball caught him. No.
It's the ground and then comes up and hits him on the inside of the knee, maybe.
Oh boy. That's called the cup check. That's right. Wear your cups, people. Wear your cup.
And and fouls it off.
Only played with a few that didn't.
I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many guys.
2 or 3.
It's tough to go there. How many guys do not play with the protective cup? Incredible. Many outfielders. Adrian Beltre.
A couple
there are
guys.
A few other guys
stand too close to the plate too. Yep.
You guys told me their hands were too good to wear a cup. And I said, well, I'm not from that camp. My hands aren't that good. And I caught it in the cup quite a few times. Just another way to knock it down. Stop it. Keep it in front.
It's a different way of taking one for the team. Knows how Dan backed out of that conversation completely. And the thing about Hanley, and you said he's a different player, it's not statistically that Ricky's talking about either. He's talking about the work ethic, the concentration in infield and batting practice, the presence in the clubhouse, all the different things that you look for from a veteran player.
Foul ball.
And aren't we glad that a guy with this kind of talent, that we can compliment him now on those parts of his game instead of wondering what he could have been someday if he would have had those parts of the game. Now he is that guy.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of fun.
Let's go down to Buster.
And also, of course, guys, this really is a contract year for him because as a free agent after 2014, he could use some big numbers this year. That sets him up for contract negotiations during the winter because if he's going to re-sign with the Dodgers as a free agent, or excuse me, just re-sign with the Dodgers, that's probably going to happen this winter.
And Don Mattingly told us before the game that, talking about his play at shortstop, Mattingly said anything Hanley Ramirez puts his mind to, he can do. And he wasn't just talking about offense. He talked about his play at short as well. And that has been a debate. Should he be a shortstop or should he be a third baseman?
But that's an area of concern. Anything that he puts his mind to.
Right.
Now, if you're a shortstop, I'm sorry, you're a shortstop. Your mind's in it already.
Spoken like a true shortstop.
I'm telling you. I heard that, and that kind of, that kind of touched me. Like anything you put your mind to, if he decides he wants to be a shortstop, he'll be a shortstop. He'll be a good shortstop. Well, now wait a minute. This guy is a shortstop. So are you telling us he hasn't committed 100% to putting in his time to be the type of shortstop, the type of player that he could or can be?
That gets under his skin because
Absolutely.
he was the type of player that approached everything with full gusto, with full team commitment, with full, I'm going to go after the mechanics of this and be the best I can be. And there wasn't a lot of flair to the guy to your right and the guy to my left tonight, but there was a ton of ability in Barry Larkin, and it made him a Hall of Famer.
Well, and we could see how much you're still into it just watching people take ground balls during batting practice before the game today.
Yeah.
You're all in or you're not in at all,
That's right. 10 toes. Let's go. 10 toes in, baby.
Here's Juan Uribe. Uribe has been the regular third baseman for most of the season. Wasn't that at the beginning of the season, but Luis Cruz played himself out of the job. Uribe took over, and he's had a good year, much better than the last couple of years he had with the Dodgers.
And not only that, he has also been the mentor for Yasiel Puig.
Got jammed. 2 down.
Guys talk about Jose Uribe being the veteran presence in the clubhouse. I think that's significant. You don't often hear of a Latino player that is the veteran presence in the clubhouse. But to his credit, everyone feels he's a guy that they can follow.
It takes a village sometimes, right? There are a lot of people who are investing in Yasiel Puig and hoping he understands the opportunity that he's got ahead of him. And Uribe, one of those mentors. 2 down, nobody on, no score, top of the second. Here's Andre Ethier, dropped down to the 6th spot tonight because he is 0 for 15 in his career against Homer Bailey. Maybe he went to Adrian Gonzalez before the game and said, tell me your secrets. You got 5 home runs off him. What am I doing wrong? But Ethier has done well out in center field. Don Mattingly's very fond of the defense that he's gotten from Ethier. And he used the word stability. It's just, they've had a lot of injuries this year, a lot of issues, but Ethier's a guy that he can put out there every day. And Ethier's a guy who's told him he'll play anywhere in the outfield they need him to play. And should Matt Kemp come back, and that is not a certainty, Ethier might be on the move again. He could play all over the outfield depending on which 3 outfielders are in the lineup on any given day. Good slow breaking ball, 1-2.
Homer Bailey is on a roll. Kershaw coming off a tough outing. Homer Bailey's won his last 5 decisions.
And the no-hitter against the Giants earlier this season, that came on July the 2nd, the second no-hitter of his big league career. And he's 5-0 with a 2.42 ERA in his last 7 starts. Got it. Nasty mix there to Ethier to retire the side in order again. To the bottom of the 2nd, no score. Cleanup hitter Brandon Phillips due up for the Reds. Don't miss any of the action this week on ESPN. We've got a doubleheader for you. Wednesday, part of iShares by BlackRock. The hunt for October. It's the Red Sox and Rays. Tampa Bay hanging on to that second wild card spot in the American League right now. And then you'll see the Dodgers again in the late game Wednesday as they take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. 1 week from tonight, we'll be at Fenway Park as the Red Sox, the leaders in the American League East, take on the New York Yankees, who won today. Mariano Rivera blew a save in the 9th after coming on in the 8th, but the Yankees won it in the bottom of the 9th. The Rays won a game today after they had been struggling recently. They beat Seattle. The Orioles and Indians both lost today. And yes, notice those Kansas City Royals still lurking on the graphic in the American League wild card race. So it's going to be a crazy 3 weeks for that second wild card spot in the American League. Here's Brandon Phillips back in the cleanup spot where he has spent almost all of this season. Had a bit of a sore quad, so Dusty Baker wanted to get him out of the 2 spot. Didn't want him to feel any pressure to run should he get on base. He wants him back in run producer mode, Barry, which is the mode he's been in all year.
And he's done quite well with over 100 ribbies on the season. But hitting second and hitting fourth, 2 totally different perspectives. Number 2 is mostly a complementary position. However, when you have Joey Votto hitting behind you, you have to think a little bit differently, because typically that number 3 guy is the guy driving in runs. Joey Votto has 66 ribbies. So there's a lot of thinking going on, and it's a totally different mindset from hitting second and hitting fourth on this team.
Phillips with a bouncer to second for the first out.
That first pitch to Brandon was another high fastball. So if you're on the Reds in the dugout and you're talking, you're going to eliminate that fastball up in the zone, because you're saying, listen, he is not throwing that for a strike. When you're facing a guy
like Clayton Kershaw, you want to try to eliminate pitches or eliminate zones. One zone you can eliminate right now is that upper zone. That takes away that high fastball. It takes away that high breaking ball that drops into the strike zone.
Here's Jay Bruce. And Bruce is leading the National League in extra base hits on the season. Having another good year. He's got 38 doubles, 1 triple, 27 homers. So 66 extra base hits.
Oh, boy.
And might have just come up with number 67. Hits it a ton for home run number 28.
Talk about laying off the high fastball. You can zone him down a little bit because you're not worried about that high fastball. Well, when you get that fastball in the zone where you're feeling comfortable, that you can handle it, these type of things happen. So I'm saying they're going with the idea that, hey, boys, look down in the zone today because he's not throwing that high fastball for a strike.
Todd Frazier with a fly ball to right field for the second out. That is the first home run given up by Clayton Kershaw since July the 26th. Kershaw had gone 58 innings since giving up a home run, and Jay Bruce, as you just saw, has more home runs as a left-handed batter off left-handed pitching than anybody in baseball the last 4 years.
The first home run by a left-hander in 249 at bats.
Wow.
He just absolutely obliterates left-handers normally. I think Barry, you got him in his zone because he can't hit the outside part to a lefty right now either. That fastball up. He's having trouble getting the fastball to the glove side for him, which is inside to a righty and away to a lefty. So you zone him down, and you can also zone him to one half of the plate right now.
And when you're facing a guy like a dominant pitcher like a Clayton Kershaw, that's what you have to do because you can't cover everything. This stuff is just too good.
In at the knees, 1 ball, 2 strikes on Zach Cozart, the Cincinnati shortstop. Another guy who spent some time in the 2 spot this year, has hit better since being moved down in the order. And he catches the outside corner to end the inning. But not before Jay Bruce launches one deep into the night for his 28th home run of the season. And at the end of 2 here at Great American Ballpark, the hot Cincinnati Reds have a 1-0 lead on the Dodgers. Guys, thank you. As we take a look now at our iShares by BlackRock hunt for October, the Cardinals with no more games left against the Pirates and Reds. The Pirates and Reds still have 6 games left against one another. And at the moment, St. Louis is a game and a half up on Pittsburgh and 2 up on Cincinnati. So the Reds going to move into a tie with the Pirates if they win tonight. Of course, all 3 of these teams, guys, are going to do anything they can to avoid the 1-game wild card playoff. Do anything you can to win the division and at least get into the division series.
And if there's any team that I think needs to win the division of these 3, I think it's the Pittsburgh Pirates, simply because I hate to see them first year in their history for 20 years and having a winning ball club. But I'd hate to see this season go down to this one play-in game. It's just psychologically, I think that'd be a little much for them to handle. And I don't know if they have that one pitcher, that could. Liriano, is he the guy? AJ Burnett, that one pitcher that you would feel good about going into just a must-win situation.
And they might not get to choose who it is because they'll come down to the last day to avoid that game. Everybody's glad that that game exists, that they get into that 1-game playoff, but no one wants to be in it.
That's why Don Mattingly's got such a better situation right now than Dusty Baker or Mike Matheny or Clint Hurdle, because those 3 teams are going to battle right down to the wire, it looks like, to win the division as A.J. Ellis takes down an in. And the Cardinals deserve a lot of credit. They just went through a brutally difficult part of their schedule. 17 games in a row against only Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. They came out of it in first place, even with Alan Craig missing the last several games with a foot injury. And now their schedule, at least on paper, is easier the rest of the way than the Pirates or Reds. Bailey rings up Ellis.
You know, Dan, you want to be playing meaningful games down the stretch because, you know, you talked about Don Mattingly and the lead that the Los Angeles Dodgers have. Now, there's certainly meaningful games to be played, but they're in no fear of not going to the playoffs. And you just want to make sure that your team is hungry and playing the best baseball that they can and kind of have that fear of the season being over going into it, so you can play those high leverage games, those high leverage innings, and you can have guys perform in those situations during the end of the season.
Much better problem than Don Mattingly had back in May when they were in last place and his job was on the line and all that. Things have changed so much for the Dodgers that he can set up his pitching any way he wants and just trying to keep his team sharp and hope nobody gets hurt. 0-2 on Mark Ellis as Homer Bailey is locked in.
You know, you talked about him throwing balls down in the strike zone. He is living down there.
He has not thrown a ball up.
You know, 2 strikes, though, you wonder if he starts to think about climbing the ladder. So look for that high fastball possibly here. You know, I'm thinking about covering it as a hitter.
Wow. Painting outside corner with the knees. Strikeout number 4.
He's thrown 1 up, and it was to Adrian Gonzalez in a 2-strike count to get the ball up. With this ball, you can shake your head, but he's shaking his head because that was the perfect pitcher's pitch, and it just lights up the corner. Been watching a little bit of the tennis. That is a 2-liner right on the corner. Both lines of the strike zone he hits, and he dots it.
2 down. Here's Kershaw. This is the Bailey that the Reds had always hoped they would see. He came up so young and he threw so hard, but the results were so inconsistent. But year by year, they've gotten a little better. Took a big step forward last year and appears to have taken another step forward this year. Again, he's pitched much better than 10-10 would suggest. And you can't pitch much better than Homer Bailey has pitched through the first 2 2/3 here tonight.
Right on top of the mound, getting the ball, throwing strikes.
Strikes out the side. 9 up, 9 down, 5 Ks for Bailey early. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. Great American Ballpark. Dan Shulman, Barry Larkin, Orel Hershiser, Buster Olney. The Reds won, the Dodgers nothing. A Jay Bruce homer and an incredibly good first 3 innings by Homer Bailey. 9 up, 9 down, 5 Ks. So the Reds have an early lead on Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. Cincinnati trying to sweep the Dodgers after a couple of 1-run wins over the last 2 days. Kershaw comes in as the major league leader in ERA, among other categories. He's got a 1.89 ERA on the season as he faces Ryan Hanigan to begin the inning. It'll be Hanigan, then Bailey, and then back to the top of the order for Shin-Soo Choo. And at the belt for a strike, 1-1. The Dodgers' first 3-game losing streak since mid-June. They haven't lost 4 in a row since May.
Don Mattingly talked about coming into Cincinnati and this really being a test to really gauge where they are as far as playing teams that they potentially could play down the stretch and in the postseason. So far, these 2 games haven't gone too well. Now, closely contested games. But certainly, a game with your ace on the mound is almost a must-win situation. Certainly not in the standings, but for you psychologically, you want to be able to beat this team, especially with your ace on the mound. Oh, does that put pressure on your ace? Does that put pressure on Kershaw?
I think there's a little pressure tonight for the Dodgers just to get the taste in their mouth again of being on a roll. They were on a roll and they are feeling good about themselves. They've got a few games left with Arizona. You know, it's not like a collapse is impossible, and I think you want to win the games you're supposed to win. There's a little, dent in their armor with, Ryu coming back from a bad back. He missed the start. Capuano had to start for him. Kemp is still not back and healthy, and they're playing well. They've done fantastic. But streaks are streaks.
Alice Bobbles recovers and makes the play, 1 down. Well, you don't have many losing streaks when you got a pitcher like Clayton Kershaw at the head of your staff, and a Kershaw trying to join some pretty select company. Lefty Grove led the majors in ERA 3 consecutive years, from 29 through 31. Greg Maddux did it 3 years in a row in the 90s, and Clayton Kershaw is on pace to do it this year. Led the majors in ERA each of the last 2 seasons, and he's got the best ERA of his career this year. They don't score a lot of runs for him. He's a very deceiving 14-8.
You go into, you think about, continue the conversation about the postseason. His numbers in the postseason aren't earth-shattering, aren't very dominant. And so you look at this game as one of those potential games. You look at this game as a must-win, as is every postseason game. This is a must-win game. You look at this game, you go, okay, how is he going to fare in this game? And this might give you a nice broadcast on how, or forecast on how he's going to perform in the postseason.
No, he's not very pleased with the way that last curveball came out of his hand.
No, he's not. He's you don't get this good without being competitive, and I love to see that on the mound. As long as it doesn't go into the next pitch, it goes into concentration and a little more discipline.
And he just tried to throw another one and missed high again.
He's looking in his toolbox right now, trying to find the adjustment. Is it slow my leg kick down? Is it my balance? Is my head going towards third base? You got a whole bunch of checklists as a pitcher to get yourself back on track. The coach has got to come to the mound. It's usually too late.
And as with any really good pitcher, you have to take advantage of him when he is struggling, because if he does find it, then it's going to be a struggle. So if I'm Shin-Soo Choo sitting on deck, I am zoning him up and hunting that fastball for the first pitch and trying to change the score right now.
How about that? Had the pitcher 0-2, and he walked him.
Well, he's out there searching. Rick Honeycutt, his pitching coach, has done a tremendous job with him, but Clayton Kershaw knows his mechanics better than anyone, and right now he's looking for his rhythm and looking for a place, and sometimes it'll help to move from the wind-up to the stretch. Right here, there's a shot of Rick. Done an unbelievable job with this Dodger staff.
I'm thinking swing early. I know there's going to be no movement on the bases. I'm thinking swing early. Hunt for that fastball up in the zone.
Swung early, 0-1.
You know, this is your leadoff hitter, but he's only leadoff hitter in the first at bat of the game. So now he's got a runner, and it's all about situational baseball at this point.
Chu walked and was picked off his first time up. 6th pickoff of the season for Clayton Kershaw. Swinging again, chased a high fastball, 0-2.
And I like it. That's that aggressiveness you have to have. You know he can't find it. So what's probably going to be his comfort is going back to that fastball. So you look for it. He got 2 fastballs out over the plate. Just happened to miss him.
If it's going to be a breaking ball, I think it's going to be a slider, because he's hung the last 2 curveballs. You don't want to make a mistake with it.
And they got another. Oh, it's a balk. Bailey was dead to rights off the bag, but maybe because Kershaw balked, and now he wants an explanation from Ed Hickox, the first base umpire.
Can't argue a balk, but he can get an explanation.
Was it the angle of the stride, Orel?
I don't know. We didn't have the angle from up here in the box looking down, but I'll tell you what. Don Mattingly better watch out when he goes out. Well, saying he stepped towards home, maybe. You got a 45-degree angle. Let's take a look at the stride, because you don't have to stop because he's coming to first. They're just going to say that he didn't stop. I don't see it. No, I don't. That foot is not going towards home, so I don't get it.
But like you said, there's kind of an imaginary line that he's not supposed to step across. Right?
45 degrees, but it was not even close to that. I mean, we've got some great moves from left-handers in the big leagues, especially one I'm thinking off the top of my head is Andy Pettit. Andy gets a lot closer to home plate than that stride. That was pretty basic.
Well, and I would imagine if you're frustrated on the mound as Kershaw was before that, he's probably twice as frustrated now. Can't find his curveball. Walked a pitcher. Committed a balk. Check swing by Chu.
There's the slider we kind of predicted, because his last few curveballs have come out the top and he's hung them for balls. So last thing you want to do is get ahead of a hitter and be in a key situation and go back to a pitch that is really not there for you. The slider's been a pitch that he's been able to control so far.
Base hit through the right side. Bailey's going to be held on the single by Chu, and the Reds have runners on the corners with 1 out.
He did try to throw the curveball, Bear, I think, and he still hangs it. It stays on the inner half. It stays up and gives Chu enough time and enough ball to hit it into this hole. He doesn't hit it real well, but he does hit it. It's not a strikeout. You give the hitter a chance. And that spike throw by Puig was just him watching them hold up the runner Bailey at third and then trying to hold on to the ball himself. He's just got to kind of come through that smooth and just let it go, hit his cutoff man.
So the Reds leading and threatening against Kershaw here in the bottom of the 3rd. Chris Heisey is the batter. Votto and Phillips are behind him. Knees for a strike.
Heisey missed a shot right there to jump on him again.
Well, as a ball, you're thinking fastball, but you're thinking about something elevated. That happened to be a good fastball located down in the zone. That's a rollover double play pitch right there. So you're looking to zone him up. Now you're looking for something a little higher in the zone so you can lift, get that runner from third base. And now you're protected. You know, sometimes a productive out is a strikeout. Last thing you want to do here is tap a ball and hit into a double play. So a strikeout in this particular instance on a tough pitch, we can live with that one. You can live with a double in the gap also. That'll work.
No balls, 2 strikes. Drills him in the elbow to load the bases. The crowd booing, obviously no intent on the part of Kershaw, but Orel, he is scuffling in a variety of ways right now.
Yeah, when when he is making his pitches, he's even still missing. I mean, the pitch for a strike on the first pitch to Heisey could have been called slightly low. That an 0-2 pitch is definitely up and in too close where he hits it. The base hit to Chu was a hanging curveball, even though it wasn't hit. That one hurts a lot, Barry.
Yeah, that's not good right there. Chris Heisey is a tough customer. That looked like that was pretty square on that elbow.
Frustration mounting for Kershaw. Paul Nassar, the head trainer for the Reds, is out to talk to Heisey. Dusty Baker's out as well. Heisey will stay in the game. And that'll load the bases for Joey Votto. And for folks who live here in Cincinnati or follow the Reds on a daily basis, and you talked about it already, Barry, the lack of RBIs has been almost a daily topic of conversation. Votto's not doing quite as well with runners in scoring position, not hitting for quite as much power with runners in scoring position, walking more than he normally does, even with runners in scoring position. And the number 2 hitter in front of him not having a good on-base percentage has impacted him as well. So a lot of factors at play, but here there's nowhere to put him. And he goes after the first pitch, and it's kind of the walk versus RBI debate that has raged daily here in Cincinnati.
You know, I think and the game really dictates what you're thinking. You can see that first swing by Joey Votto. He's telling you he is in the RBI mode right now. You know what? The only difference I see in Joey Votto is from that injury that he suffered a year ago is his power numbers aren't there. He's swinging, he's striking out. He's going up there and swinging the bat. You can see another fastball up in the zone. He's swinging and being aggressive, going after it. But he's the same guy. He's the same guy that you signed to that big contract. The only difference to me is just that his power isn't there.
Big moment early in this one as the Reds try to break it open against Kershaw. Line to first and back safely at second is the runner Chu. So the bases remain loaded now with 2 down.
Two fastballs and another high breaking ball that gives Votto a chance to put this ball in play. Fastball, he beats him. Another well located away fastball, but now the breaking ball again. It's down, but it's still not the sharp Kershaw put away breaking ball. Right there, he's got to bounce it. Votto knows he got a mistake in an 0-2 count and hit it well, just hit it in the wrong place.
So the bases remain loaded, 2 down, and here's Brandon Phillips, who has done an extraordinary job this year in these kinds of situations with the bases loaded. Takes a high strike, and the count is 0-1. You want to talk about a guy who can smell RBI opportunities. How's 11 for 17 working this year?
Yeah, he talked to me in spring training about how hitting fourth this year, his only objective was to drive in 100 runs. He said he wanted to be that guy. And if you know Brandon Phillips on a personal level, you know he enjoys being that guy. So he's taken that challenge and really made it something personal. He really loves these type of RBI opportunities.
Kershaw battling. Got Votto now 0-2 on Phillips. Just joining us, Kershaw gave up a home run to Jay Bruce, a long drive into the bullpen down the right field line in the second. This inning, he walked Homer Bailey, the opposing pitcher, after getting out in front 0-2. He committed a balk. He hit a batter. He got Votto to line out for the second out. Now trying to get Phillips and get out of this jam.
He's ready for a ball in the dirt if it's a breaking ball. He doesn't want to miss up.
Ground ball to third. And Kershaw gets out of it. Got Votto and Phillips, and the Reds leave them loaded. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Xerox. With Xerox, you're ready for real business. And Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. A very special weekend here in Cincinnati as Hall of Famer Joe Morgan, our former colleague here at ESPN, was honored with a statue outside Great American Ballpark. It brought the Great Eight back, the 8 starting position players from the Big Red Machine, the back-to-back World Series champions in 1975 and 1976. Joe was the MVP of the National League in both of those years and is, without a doubt, a shadow of a doubt, one of the game's all-time great second baseman, a Hall of Famer, 2-time MVP, 10-time All-Star. On and on and on it goes. And I know there was a young baseball fan growing up here in Cincinnati named Barry Larkin, who was a big fan of those teams back in the mid-70s.
Absolutely, man. I had the little bat flap going on or the back wing going on. And I always wondered why he did that. And you know what? I never asked him why he did that, if it was a nervous twitch or what. But to be a fly on the wall when all those guys get together, and just to hear them talk about the good old days and what they used to do and how Joe says he was the prettiest guy among the group and how everybody else was a mullion. And then Tony tells him, you know what, we made you, Joe. We made you. Oh, man, just to hear these guys just go at it. It's a fun time.
Joe Morgan at second, Tony Perez at first, Johnny Bench behind the plate, all Hall of Famers. Pete Rose at third, obviously would be a Hall of Famer based on his statistics had he not gone through his off-the-field issues. Davey Concepcion at short, a very, very underrated part of that team. George Foster, who went on to have some incredible years in left field. Cesar Geronimo, great center fielder. Ken Griffey Sr. in right. I mean, that is some kind of everyday line.
Oh, it doesn't get much better than that right there.
I think they had like a 700 winning percentage when all 8 were in the lineup, when they were all healthy and were out there. That's the Big Red Machine.
I remember coming up playing in Cincinnati and being kind of compared to them all the time. So you talk about pressure. Until we won the World Series in 1990, we heard about it just about every single year. When are we going to get back?
In 1990 they did. Wow. Bailey is dealing. That's 5 straight strikeouts.
Well, we've talked about he is living down and only going up when he wants to. Second high fastball I've seen tonight. The other one, the Adrian Gonzalez, in a 2-strike count, but he gets ahead and he finishes Carl Crawford up. Remember, he started the game off with a breaking ball to Carl Crawford. That tells you, I know that he is a good fastball hitter. And you know what? That first at bat, he threw a high fastball to Crawford that first at bat when he got ahead of him 0-2. He's thrown 3 up there, but all on purpose.
Flawless so far tonight. Yasiel Puig.
That was an important pitch. Yasiel Puig hitting over 600 on the first pitch. Well, you don't throw it anywhere close. If he wants to swing at it, let him have it. That's, you talked about, Oro, you talked about the maturation process of a Homer Bailey. Going to school and doing your homework. That's a game plan. It doesn't just happen by coincidence.
But he is, you know, not only matured, but his head has softened. And he had a hard head, and to be this competitive and to be this good and to never really experience any difficulty until you get to the big league level, when you're blessed with this arm, you sometimes never face defeat or have to make a change until you run into competition that has your kind of ability, and that's what the big leagues was finally for Homer. But now that he's adjusted back, he's one of the dominant pitchers in the game.
Popped him up behind the plate, but back out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Right now, I mean, Cincinnati seems like a virtual lock to go to the postseason. If they have the chance to line him up any way they want, you'd have to think Bailey's probably the number 2 guy behind Matt Latos in this rotation.
Well, I think for sure that he is, and Dusty Baker feels very comfortable now having him in big games. He beat St. Louis. He beat Adam Wainwright. He's gone up against the best. He's going up against Kershaw tonight, and you know that as a pitcher when you're going up against another team's ace, how good you have to be. And he has been excellent right from the beginning of this game.
Six consecutive strikeouts.
They are pitching Puig inside more tonight than they did earlier in the series. Matt Latos gave up a home run to Puig on a breaking ball away earlier in this series.
You could see Ryan Hannigan asking for that ball up, elevated.
They don't want him to extend.
That's a game plan. Execution.
Puig has reach pop, meaning you can fool him away and he can still have enough bat speed to hit it out, and that's what he did to Latos. They're not going to let him do it tonight.
Adrian Gonzalez, the batter. Bailey struck out the first batter of the game, Carl Crawford. Then retired Puig, Gonzalez, Ramirez, and Uribe on either fly balls or ground balls, and since then has struck out 6 in a row. He has faced 11, he has retired 11, 7 of them via strikeout. And a liner into center field, a base hit, the first base runner of the night for the Dodgers.
Adrian Gonzalez with a great approach. You saw the first pitch out over the plate, not trying to do too much, understanding that Homer Bailey is dominant tonight. Just looking for something out over the plate where he can get his arms extended. Here's the pitch out over the plate. Tries not to do too much with it. Nice base hit to left center field. That's professional hitting. Not a bad pitch, though. Good hitting.
A really good hitter. He is so smooth. Such a sweet swing.
A runner at first, 2 down, and here's Hanley Ramirez, retired on a fly ball to center. Bailey, who's got 2 no-hitters to his credit. It looked like he might be in and still might be in for a very special night, because he was making it look easy through the first 3 2/3. Now a drive to left center field off the bat of Ramirez, and this is going to get all the way to the fence. Gonzalez does not run well, but he's getting the way. The relay coming through to the plate is cut. The run will score. And now they've got Ramirez caught in a rundown to end the inning. Double and an RBI for Hanley Ramirez. And just like that, the Dodgers get a couple of hits and get a run to tie it here in the 4th. Back here in Cincinnati, Hanley Ramirez driving in the first run of the night for the Dodgers. A 2-out RBI double that scored Adrian Gonzalez before Ramirez was caught in a rundown to end the inning. The first damage of any kind that the Dodgers had been able to do against Homer Bailey. This game is tied at 1 as we go to the bottom of the 4th. And in between innings, our Buster Olney had a chance to visit with Dodger manager Don Mattingly.
Don, how are you feeling about your approach against Homer Bailey so far?
He's been pretty good so far. It's good to get that run right there, but he looks like he's kept the ball down. You know, pretty much a lot of guys, you see him taking that strike that's kind of right there on the knees, borderline low, and he's been pretty good so far. So hopefully we can hang in there. Kershaw hangs in there, and we just scratch him for late, runs as we keep going.
Kershaw looked like he was struggling a little bit with command, especially his curveball. How does he fix himself?
Clayton just keeps battling. That's the one thing we've seen in the past with him. He's going to keep going. He's not going to give up. And if the curveball's not getting over, then he's going to throw more sliders. And if that's not working, he'll go to the changeup. And he's just going to keep coming at you and attacking. So we're just watching him keep working through it.
Well, Jay Bruce just got him again. Second at bat, second home run for Bruce off Kershaw.
Well, that's how you respond right there. You let a great pitcher back into the game. You got to feel like I'm looking for a ball where I can handle it. Pitch up in the zone. You can see his hot zone right there. Hunting something, not necessarily a fastball, but a pitch where you can handle it. He handled it. And once again, I believe that you're able to do that against a guy of Clayton Kershaw's capability because of his erratic behavior today. Him throwing the ball, not really commanding the fastball or any of his pitches at this point.
There's a ground ball to short off the bat of Frazier, and he is retired for out number one. The Reds going right back on top as Jay Bruce, who, as we mentioned after the last home run, has hit more home runs as a left-handed batter off left-handed pitching than anybody else in baseball over the last 4 years.
Many of those pitches out over the plate. Pitchers tend to be creatures of habit. You saw Clayton Kershaw hit Heisey on a fastball in. Many pitchers don't feel good about pitching in because of the possibility of hitting a guy. You don't want to hurt a guy. You don't want to injure a guy. And the idea also is if I miss in, that's the ball that goes much further than if I miss away. So you understand all of that as a hitter, and you go in and you try to eliminate pitches based on what's happening in the game. The fact that he hit Chris Heisey, he's not going to come back in there. He's not throwing the ball for a strike, his fastball for a strike, not commanding the fastball. Just look for something out over the plate. Oh, I know that's what we used to do against you. And any great pitcher.
I think those two guys right there, and Votto and Bruce, they're talking about what to eliminate like you are.
They talk almost constantly, Joey Votto and Jay Bruce, as Zach Cozart pops up. 2 down, and we go down to Buster Olney.
Guys, I talked to Jay Bruce yesterday about his approach against left-handed pitchers, and he said he's felt more comfortable this year in part because there have been a lot of games in which he's batted right behind Joey Votto, and he knows that later in the game he's going to see left-handers. So those repetitions, he says, have really helped him this year.
A team with 3 very good left-handed batters, Chu the leadoff hitter, and then Votto, and then Bruce. And it's Bruce who's done the damage tonight with home runs number 28 and 29. A guy who's increased his home runs and RBIs every year that he's been in the big leagues, and has a chance to do it again this year if he finishes strong over the last 3 weeks. Here's Ryan Hannigan.
When there's a right-hander on the mound, Bruce gets a lot of pressure because most people walk Votto to get to Bruce, so they don't want to go through both of them. So you can only have to go through one. You walk Votto, and then you. And I think when they get to the playoffs, or if they get to the playoffs, depending on what kind of series it is, it could be a long series, or Bruce could end up being a hero.
Yes, he can.
Well, you wonder when the time comes how Dusty Baker will line them up, because Brandon Phillips has hit 4th most of the season. He's hit 2nd a little bit. Would Dusty put Phillips back 2nd and have Bruce hitting 4th, so you got 2 lefties in a row? Or would Dusty prefer to keep Phillips clean up, have Bruce hit 5th, and then figure out who your 2 hitter is going to be, which has been an issue at times this year for the Reds?
I think as a manager, you want to give yourself as many opportunities to win. So I think that right left will be the way that he goes. I know that's the safe way to go, but it's not the conservative way to go. You've got good hitters, right and left-handed hitters. You just don't want to give that other team an opportunity just to stack lefties against you.
Kershaw strikes out Hannigan, but Jay Bruce becoming the story here tonight. In the 2nd inning, he drilled one down the line, kept it fair for his 28th of the season, and he came right back this inning with number 29, and the Reds have the lead again. Reds 2, Dodgers 1, going top 5 between innings. Buster Olney and Dusty Baker.
Dusty, yesterday Jay Bruce told me he's felt more comfortable against left-handed pitching. He's the first hitter to hit any home runs off Clayton Kershaw, left-handed hitter. Tell me what you saw tonight.
Well, tonight he got a couple balls up, and especially that last one, was a mistake, hanging slider. But that's what you do with it. I see a lot of guys now, they take that pitch, but in our time we were taught to hit that before he gets out there with that other one. But I tell you, we needed it badly because this guy's tough. And Jay Bruce just hit 2 home runs off one of the top pitchers in baseball.
Now, you've seen Homer Bailey on some special nights. Compare his stuff tonight to those nights.
Well, I tell you, it's very similar. I mean, because this guy has great stuff tonight, great location. And, one of the guys over there that, hits him hard is, Adrian Gonzalez.
Dusty, thanks.
Dusty Baker, who yesterday picked up his 500th win as manager of the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds up 2-1 going to the 5th behind an outstanding performance thus far from Homer Bailey, who retired the first 11 of the night, 7 of them by strikeout. Had a chance to visit with Dusty, both managers, before the game, and found out what it's Johnny B. Baker. We've always known it's Johnny B. Baker. We asked him what the B stands for. Nothing.
Said if somebody calls him Johnny B, he knows that they went to elementary school with.
That's right. Because his dad was Johnny B. or Big John, and Dusty's given name is Johnny. So. But the B doesn't stand for anything, he said.
Grew up in the South and just kind of added it. Some guys are called JC, JB.
Mm-hmm. He's an interesting guy to go sit and talk to about all kinds of different things.
He's got his Hall of Fame table in his office.
All the signatures on it?
Yeah.
You on there?
Yeah, I'm on there. He actually asked me to sign it before I went into the Hall of Fame, and I told him I couldn't do that. He said, boy, come here and sign this table.
Yes, sir.
You can put the year on after you get inducted. Yes, sir.
Juan Uribe drives the ball high and deep to right center field and caught just shy of the track by Bruce.
One thing to look for, Dan, is that Adrian Gonzalez last inning swung at the first pitch, fouled it off, eventually got the base hit. Hanley Ramirez comes up, first pitch swinging, hit the double for their RBI double. First pitch Juan Uribe, first pitch swinging. So maybe you're thinking, listen, boys, this guy's pitching so well, he's going to give us something to hit early in the count. So be aggressive early.
Here's Ethier. Struck out his first time up, now 0 for 16 in his career against Bailey. And a fastball inside corner with the knees. I guess when you're scuffling against a guy, he seems to make his best pitches against you, too.
Seems like you're always probably hitting in an 0-2 count, too.
That's right. I.e. swing early.
Lays off, a ball and a strike. Johnny Cueto's a guy who obviously has been a fixture in this Cincinnati rotation in recent years, but he's been on the DL 3 times. And he has thrown recently through today. Some early batting practice out in the field, and there is hope that Cueto will be able to come back from that lat pull behind his shoulder, if not as a starter, then potentially as a reliever through September and heading into October. And even Dusty Baker mentioned, hey, like the Tim Lincecum comparison, what Lincecum did in the postseason of last year for the Giants and how valuable he was. And boy, if you can get a guy like Cueto back, plus Sean Marshall, a very good left-handed reliever who's been on the DL a long time with a shoulder problem. I mean, that's a couple of great pickups as Ethier strikes out again. That's a couple of great pickups, guys, for the Reds heading into the postseason.
Yeah, you think Tim Lincecum, what he did in the 7th and 8th innings for the Giants, you think that today he threw the 30 pitches in the simulated game, and that included the breaking ball and the changeup, and his location was good. He was not only down, he was down where he wanted to be, kind of like Homer Bailey is tonight. You see, he feels pretty good. He's smiling right there on the bench.
He got to be feel good about coming back soon. But the question I asked, the follow-up to that, well, does he have the mentality to go into the bullpen and pitch out of the bullpen? And I don't think I got the answer yes from Dusty. He said he's a very competitive guy and he wants to pitch. Yeah. So I think what Tim Lincecum did was absolutely great, but you have to accept that role. If you're a starter and you're used to going out there and being in one particular role and they're asking you to do something else, it can be difficult to accept that and perform in that role.
I think the acceptance could come as he realizes he can't get his pitch count built up. But as long as that possibility of getting his pitch count built up is still there, I think he doesn't want to give in to the fact that, okay, I'll just be for relief. I think as a starter, he's still holding that dream that he can build it up to 100 pitches after 30 today.
So you're saying it's a mind game is what you're telling me.
Again, we play a lot of those, don't we? Hitters and pitchers.
Well, remember what the Reds went through last year, guys, in the division series against the Giants. Cueto got hurt in the first game. And the Reds still went out, won the first couple of games, but they had to really juggle their pitching. Matt Latos wound up pitching the deciding game. And the Giants came back and beat them 3 in a row. I mean, this is a hungry bunch to get further than they got last year. There's a sharply hit ball into left field, a base hit for A.J. Ellis. And with guys like Marshall, Cueto, Tony Cingrani's a rookie left-hander who's got a lot of talent, and who knows what kind of a role he could find for the Reds. I mean, this is looking like a pretty dangerous team right now. They've played really, really well this week. They took 3 out of 4 from the Cardinals. The only loss was in 16 innings. And now they've taken the first 2 from the Dodgers, and they're leading here tonight.
This is a team that if they're going to get into the playoffs, if they happen to play that one play game, that one play-in game, I think they are well equipped with a lot of different weapons to try to win that one game.
Here's Mark Ellis.
And it's all about pitching. That's one thing that we didn't have when I was playing here. We didn't have. We certainly had the Nasty Boys. We had Jose Rio and Danny Jackson, Tom Browning, but we didn't have that surplus of power pitching. And I think it's power pitching that really does well in the playoffs. You have to have guys with swing and miss stuff. The Reds certainly have that.
When you got Aroldis Chapman at the end of the game, that's not only just a 3-out pitcher. See, he can come in and pitch the 8th and the 9th. So now you can go to your matchups even earlier if your starter struggles in the 5th or 6th.
For people who may not have seen or heard or read, Chapman he's gone through a couple little lulls here during the season, but this past week he actually pitched in 4 consecutive games, and he was cruising it in there at 102, 103 on a pretty regular basis.
And I don't think people quite understand how hard it is to hit a fastball. If you know it's coming 100 miles an hour, it's still incredibly difficult. And thank goodness in my day, there weren't guys at the end of the bullpen throwing 97 to 103. It was 92 to 95 were your flamethrowers. There were a lot of guys that lived at 88 to 90.
With a kind of a trick pitch, a changeup or a split finger, or a really good dot slider.
A little different ball game now.
Inning over. To the bottom of the 5th, Homer Bailey and the Reds up 2-1. Monday Night Football is back on ESPN. The traditional opening week doubleheader begins at 6:55 Eastern Time. The Eagles take on the Redskins, and then at 10:15 Eastern, it's the Texans and the Chargers. Coverage begins with Monday Night Countdown at 5. Tomorrow night on ESPN and also live on watching ESPN, and so much anticipation because RG3 is going to be starting for the Redskins tomorrow night in that first game.
I'm looking forward to watching him.
Oh, for sure. And then Chip Kelly with the Michael Vick running the offense.
That quarterback position a little bit different than it used to be back in the day. I don't know about the rules, the changing of the rules, you know, what's a foul, what's a illegal hit anymore.
Were you a three-sport guy in high school?
Confusing. I went to University of Michigan on a football scholarship, and I had to tell Bo Schembechler I wasn't going to play football. He would decide to redshirt me my freshman year. It was his fault. He told me, hey, I'm going to let you play baseball for the first time in your career. Just play baseball. I said, okay.
Worked out pretty well.
After that season, we went to College World Series. And I had to go in and tell Bo, hey, Bo, thanks, man, but now I'm not going to play football. And he threw me out of his office.
Did he really?
He told me to come back the next day when I came to my senses.
Wow.
And I had to go back.
And now as a dad, you get to sit and watch basketball all the time.
Absolutely.
Your son was an outstanding player at University of Miami. Now he's with the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, he had a great time at University of Miami. He went back there to get their ACC championship ring.
Nice.
Just the other day as Miami beat Florida. That was a huge win for the ACC and the University of Miami. And now we're going to be going down to Dallas to watch him hopefully mix it up with Dirk.
He is something else.
And Mark Cuban and those guys.
I was lucky enough to do, I don't know, we saw each other 4 or 5 times, I guess, during the winter. I did a bunch of his games, and he is something else. They had one heck of a season.
It was fun.
And I'm telling you, we had a camera on Barry Oral at every game.
Oh, I know. I was watching at home.
He was one proud papa.
I'm telling you.
I kept texting him.
Pom Nation.
Stop biting your nails.
Here's Chu. Chu has walked and singled against Kershaw. And the count's 3-0 here.
Still searching for it out there.
At the knees, 3-1.
And you heard Earl say that he's still searching for it out there, and that's the difference between a great pitcher and a ho-hum pitcher. Is the fact that he's struggling and he's still making pitches. Got out of that bases loaded jam after he made a few mistakes, but was able to kind of button it down and get out of it and make those appropriate pitches.
Walks Chu for the second time tonight. Well, let's go back into the Wayback Machine again. But this involves both Barry and Oral. This is opening day 1989. This city, not this ballpark. Oral's come off the 59-inning scoreless streak in 1988, and in the first inning of 1989, Todd Benzinger with a base hit. And look who's coming home. Barry Larkin scores the first run that Oral had given up.
And he's yawning. And he's out there yawning. Oh, well. It was going to come to an end at some point.
Wow.
Sooner or later.
Yeah. I mean, 59 innings.
Yeah, that was pretty
59 innings.
It shouldn't have been even accounting as a possible streak. We'd already been home, had Christmas, had Thanksgiving, had the parade, had all the stuff.
It still was a streak.
You did the talk shows and the banquets. You got a little too comfortable in the off season.
My elbow was blowing up. See, that wasn't opening day. So after 88, you'd think I'd have started opening day, but I didn't tell anybody, and only Tommy and our trainers knew that my elbow was just on fire.
Well, you pitched a bit in October that year, in 88, as I recall as well.
My elbow didn't loosen up. The scar didn't break loose till about midway through 89.
Well, we looked at the numbers, and we wanted to see
the run, Barry. Now,
that's what I said to Barry.
I knew Benzinger got the hit. I was just right. Barry got on.
That's what I said to Barry.
I got on base.
Did you walk?
I got on base. I got a hit.
You got a hit?
I got on base.
Are you sure?
Then you tried to pick me off first base.
We looked it up.
And threw it away.
Did I really?
So I was on second.
Then he got 2 outs.
A good throw. It was probably.
You got 2 outs after that.
And then an AstroTurf hit.
Yeah.
That was not. That ball was not even hit that well.
Well, mine was probably AstroTurf hit too.
Nah, you can hit flat out.
Well, we looked up the numbers between you two. You guys faced each other a lot over the years.
He hit over 300 on me.
He hit exactly 300. He was 18 for 60.
But no damage. I was a leadoff hitter at that point. It was about getting on base, and that's what I was able to do.
You did that very well.
But I'm going to tell you.
HOF.
I'm going to tell you what this guy did.
Uh-oh.
This guy would get 2 strikes on you, and then, folks, everyone, he's not going to throw you a strike. And that's what we would say.
Yep. And I'm still not going to throw you a strike because I can't even throw a ball.
Well, I won't be swinging at it either. But that's exactly, look at that. I'm telling you, he's just ho-humming it about
you
it.
You guys in the truck, are you having fun showing this? I mean, seriously. No, I just choked right
Caller's getting a little tight.
That was a sign right there. That was a sign right there.
Unbelievable.
How many innings did you throw in 88? 265?
Yeah,
with the playoffs,
including the playoffs, about
right?
306 or 308 or 30 whatever.
Crazy. Yeah.
That could lead to an elbow being a little
yeah, it was
tired.
far down.
Here's Votto. Now remember, Kershaw.
Watch out, that's a balk move.
Kershaw's picked off a runner tonight, and he's been called for a balk.
On that same exact move. Stepping over there and throwing. He just did the same exact thing.
Might want to take a chance right here if you're a runner at first base. Just go first move. Try to get in the scoring opportunity or scoring position for Joey Votto. If you're going to do it, you got to do it early. So maybe look for this pitch right here. Figure worst case scenario. Joey Votto's up. Nobody on base.
You got the Reds leading off as somebody with an on-base percentage over 400 next inning.
That's right. So go ahead and take a chance. Give him the green light. Skip. Let him run.
Catches the outside corner, 1-1.
This is why you want that #1 hitter to be a guy that can steal bases. This is the exact situation. You got a tough pitcher in a game where not much is happening. A couple of long balls, and that's just about it. You want to manufacture a run. Get a guy in scoring position by not swinging the bat. Let him use those wheels. A couple years, that guy's going to be Billy Hamilton.
That's the guy we're going to talk about, Billy Hamilton, for people who may not know. And this is not a mistake. Stole 155 bases last year between single A and double A. Stole 75 this year at triple A. Is a September call-up now for the Reds. Has come into 4 games, all as a pinch runner. Has stolen a base all 4 times and has scored 3 runs, 2 of them game winners. And he's a guy who, if this game is close late, and somebody without a lot of speed or one of the, not one of the mainstays for the Reds gets on, maybe one of the mainstays even gets on, there'll be a signal and Billy Hamilton will come out and this place will go nuts.
And he's stolen bases against guys like Yadi or Molina.
Yep.
One of the best throwing catchers in the game. Mark Ellis, another guy, throws well. So he's definitely a weapon. And I know Dusty is thinking, strategizing on where am I going to put him in the game to make a difference, because he does with that speed.
Fouled back. And it's a very unique weapon, really, that Dusty Baker has at his disposal. He's basically said to Billy Hamilton, you're going to be a pinch runner. You're not going to get a lot of playing time, but you got to stay ready and you got to stay loose. And this is what Billy Hamilton does during the game. He showed us before the game what he does. He goes down in the tunnel and he gets ready to run. That's what he does.
The unique thing about Billy Hamilton is the fact that after that first step, he's at top speed. And what that is, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, put a radar on that guy, see how fast he runs. But I say this all the time when you describe a guy when he runs. I say Billy Hamilton bounds when he runs. Prances.
Votto strikes out, inning over. 5 in the books, 2-1 Reds. And Carl, that is a monster win for the Yankees, as you said, after they lost the first 3 games to the Red Sox. Tampa Bay won today. They're still in the lead for the second wild card spot. The Indians and Orioles both lost today, and the Yankees and Royals both won. So you've got 4 teams trying to chase down a wild card spot in the American League. Plus you've got the battle between Oakland and Texas atop the American League West. There's a lot going on.
I still say the fact that the Yankees, with all the injuries that they've had, all the turmoil that they've had, the fact that they still have a chance to make it to the playoffs, that's so impressive for me.
Joe Girardi's going to get some votes for Manager of the Year.
Derek Jeter hurt again now. As Clayton Kershaw leads off the 6th for the Dodgers, who are down 2-1. Jeter aggravating the ankle injury, did not play today for the Yankees. Some pretty significant injuries for some contending teams, as that ball is sharply hit to second. Staggers Phillips, but he'll make the play. 1 down. You've got Alan Craig of St. Louis, who's out with a foot injury. You've got Jacoby Ellsbury of the Red Sox, who word came out today has a non-displaced fracture in his foot, but they're hoping to get him back within a couple of weeks before the end of the regular season. Of course, Matt Kemp with the Dodgers, who aggravated a hamstring problem, so he is still out trying to work his way back from his latest injury. That's 4 pretty good players right there.
Well, this is that time of year where those injuries start to rear their ugly heads, and that talks about the importance of depth in the game. Have those backup players that can go out and get it done. And it's a team effort, and it's a marathon, certainly not a sprint.
Yeah. You usually look at September and hope that you can get guys healthy, but when injuries start to happen now, September starts to look like it might not be enough time left. When you talk about depth, that's what the Dodgers have been able to create with the budget influx since the sale of the team from McCourts to now Magic Johnson and the Guggenheim Group. The fact that they have a big enough budget to have a lot of depth. Ned Colletti, their general manager, and Don Mattingly have done a great job putting some depth on this roster.
You bring a guy over from Philadelphia, and Michael Young. It's an all-star, 200 hits a year. He's certainly not at that level consistently anymore, but his ability to play corner positions and do whatever you need in a professional batter. Nick Punto.
Brian Wilson, they added in the bullpen. See what he can do.
Sure. Ball hooked toward the right field corner. That is a fair ball. And Crawford racing into second base with a 1-out double. Let's go down to Buster Olney.
Guys, you guys mentioned Matt Kemp. Of course, the big question is going to be going forward is there going to be enough time for him to reestablish himself? Don Mattingly told us today that he took about 15 at-bats at the Dodgers spring training complex. They think that perhaps that he could be back in about 10 days and rejoin the Dodgers at that time. That would leave about 10 days for him to play, for the Dodgers to evaluate him. As you guys remember, earlier this year, Don Mattingly basically decided, you know what, I'm just going to play the best lineup that I see, and that's the question. Can Matt Kemp reestablish himself soon enough to become part of that?
And that's one of the amazing things about what the Dodgers have done. The guy who was arguably the best player in baseball 2 years ago has been a non-factor in all of this. Puig, of course, has been a big factor, replacing him in the outfield. Ethier moving to center as Puig is hit by a pitch.
You know, Dan, something about those last 10 days and Matt Kemp trying to establish himself and show that he can be one of the top 3 outfielders on the team. Barry will attest to this. What are they going to do with the other slot and who sits? Because you're going to get that guy out of rhythm going into the playoffs. You want to play. This is an experiential sport.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That's a tough position to be in. And, you know, those guys, everyone has that highly competitive spirit. They want to be the guy.
And the last thing they want to be doing is trying to possibly lose their job by giving up playing time and losing their timing going into the biggest games of the year.
Exactly. Meanwhile, here's Homer Bailey, who was absolutely sailing for much of the night, but is in a bit of a jam here. Gave up a double, hit a batter first and second, 1 out. It looked like he might have stumbled a little bit in his follow through. He slipped, just his left foot gave way.
He catches his heel, doesn't hit his hole exactly. They've been working on the mound in between innings, and Clayton Kershaw, where he hits and where Homer Bailey hits, are slightly different. It looks like Homer might hit part of Clayton's hole as the play is kind of breaking away.
Oh, is that something you have to be concerned with as a pitcher? Do you have to worry about the hole that the other pitcher makes?
You know, starters are a little bit more particular about it because there's only been usually 2 people on the mound, you and somebody else. But the relievers deal with it all the time. The relievers always come into a mound that's beat up, and they're more used to the mound not being perfect and having to find their spots. But as a starter, you can get a little bit finicky about somebody else's hole out there.
Would it cause you to possibly work on the other side of the rubber?
Well, you wouldn't move that much, but you would hopefully just get it fixed.
So here's the situation. 2 on, 1 out, and Homer Bailey facing his nemesis, Adrian Gonzalez, who's 10 for 20 against him in his career, including 5 home runs. He's 1 for 2 tonight, with a base hit and scored back in the 4th.
Quality pitch, that first pitch to Adrian Gonzalez, understanding that his last time up he swung at that first pitch. So executing your pitches right now, paying particular attention is very important.
Very good speed on the bases for the Dodgers as Gonzalez takes low, ball 2. Crawford second and Puig at first.
We can get an overview of how the defense is playing. Got a modified shift in a double play situation. Basically, a shortstop behind second base.
And it just might be a double play. And it is. Homer Bailey gets out of it. Getting his toughen out as he's had in his big league career to ground into an inning-ending double play. Welcome back to Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Bottom of the 6th inning here in Cincinnati. And the Reds, on the strength of 2 home runs from Jay Bruce, lead Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers 2-1. The Reds try to sweep the Dodgers and to make things even more interesting than they already are in the National League Central. Kershaw has battled, has not had his best stuff. As Brandon Phillips leads off the inning, hits one a long way to center field, but caught shy of the track. And Phillips retired for out number 1. That'll bring up Bruce and give us a chance to take a look at Hot Zone, brought to you by T-Mobile.
If it's blue, it's below 250. If it's red, it's above 350. And if this is Jay Bruce against left-handers, look at the red zone. He is an up hitter against lefties, and that's where Kershaw made both mistakes. One up and in and one up and away. And Bruce showed why those areas are hot for him. He executed both times. Kershaw didn't.
At the knees for a strike. So Bruce hits lefties better when the ball is up. Kershaw kept the first pitch down.
This is an ego at bat for Kershaw. For Bruce, he's already accomplished what he wants. He wants more, of course. But this is really Clayton Kershaw's battle here.
See the way Kershaw snaps his glove with the return throws sometimes, how unhappy he is with himself when he doesn't execute a pitch the way he wants to. No swing.
And that's the difference between Clayton Kershaw when he's on fire and Clayton Kershaw tonight. Still, he's in the ball game, giving his team a chance to win, but he just has not been able to finish the hitters as he's been able to earlier throughout the season in his career.
Well, K-zone lit it up as a strike, but it was borderline low, and he didn't get the call. But the thing about Clayton Kershaw, he's given up 2 runs tonight. If the Dodgers got him 7 and a 7-2, you'd see the same grind, the same competitiveness. This is what makes him great.
And this time he wins the battle against Bruce.
This is why you have to get Clayton Kershaw early in the game, because you figure the more he's out there, the more competitive he is, the more chances he's going to get to figure it out. And that pitch right there is an unhittable pitch in a place where he's trying to get there. See that slider down and away? You can't do much with that.
2 down for Todd Frazier, who comes into the game hot. 10 for his last 25 entering this game, including the game-winning RBI single in the 10th inning yesterday.
This game really is Bruce 2, Dodgers 1, because the Dodgers gotten 4 hits. Cincinnati's only gotten 3, and Bruce got 2 of them, 2 bombs. So Clayton Kershaw has struggled. But that guy Adrian Gonzalez has gotten a hit, and Hanley Ramirez drove him in, and Bruce has drove himself in twice, and that's the difference in the game.
Change up there from Kershaw. This is down and away, 2 balls and a strike.
He only throws that pitch about 2% of the time. It's fastball, curveball, and slider 98% of the time.
If he could refine the changeup, it would be officially unfair.
You just give that hitter something to think about.
Yeah.
Just something in the back of I guarantee you guys are going, was that a changeup on the bench? Uh-oh. He's throwing a changeup now.
He's got a new toy.
That. That's right.
And a grounder to second. And a 3-up, 3-down inning for Clayton Kershaw. 6 in the books. Still a 1-run lead for the Reds. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by iShares by BlackRock. Visit iShares.com to learn more. Firestone Complete Auto Care. Keep your car running newer, longer. And Chrysler, imported from Detroit. Fountain Square here in downtown Cincinnati. Dan Schulman, Barry Larkin, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney. Sunday Night Baseball, and two of the best teams in the sport, the Dodgers and the Reds. The Reds winning Friday 3-2, winning yesterday 4-3, and leading tonight 2-1. Remember, Cincinnati is just 2 games back of St. Louis in the National League Central. The Cardinals beat the Pirates again today. If Cincinnati wins tonight, they'll move into a tie with the Pirates for second in the National League Central. These 3 teams figure to battle right down to the wire to see who finishes on top and which 2 wind up in the 1-game wild card playoff. 4, 5, and 6. Hanley Ramirez, Juan Uribe, and Andre Ethier against Homer Bailey here in the 7th. Ramirez with an RBI double back in the 4th, scoring the only Dodger run of the night. 97. Getting stronger.
Getting the rhythm. Once you get the mechanics and the rhythm, you can add the energy because you know it's not going to fall apart. You don't want to add that kind of energy early on. You're trying to hit your spots and zone it in. He has hit his spots most of the night, and especially commanding the lower half of the strike zone.
We saw those 2 well-executed fastballs, 97, 96 miles an hour on the outside corner. Last time up, Hanley Ramirez swung at that first pitch and got another one inside that he could handle.
Got a hanging breaking ball here, and he drives it out to tie the game.
Called a cripple pitch right here. You're looking for one pitch in particular. That's that hanging breaking ball out over the plate. 2 times he tried to find the fastball out over the plate. Left that breaking ball up. Got those arms extended, and no park was going to hold that one.
98 for a strike to Uribe. Get a look at the reaction from Ryan Hannigan. Look how quickly he realized where that pitch was going.
Some of you don't really like seeing that from your catcher.
No.
Right through the wickets on Frazier. And Uribe is aboard on the air.
Here's a test for Homer Bailey's maturity and a test for playoff baseball to come in Cincinnati. Give up a home run overthrowing a slider to a guy who got an RBI double off you, and now you get an error from a guy behind you, and now it's your turn to pick up your teammate. They don't hang your head when you give up the home run. You don't hang your head on the mound when they make an error behind you. Homer Bailey needs to be mentally disciplined right now to continue to remember the rhythm he's had most of the night and execute some pitches to keep Cincinnati tight in this game.
Here's Ethier. Has struck out both times tonight, and as you can see, has never had a base hit against Bailey. I don't know, Barry, if you ever had somebody you struggled to this extent against, but whoever that guy was who you struggled a lot against, right? What kind of a mindset do you take to the plate to try to make things different?
Well, it really depends on the situation. You got nobody out. You got a runner on first base. You got a 2-2 ball game. I'm struggling against that pitcher. Now, bunting was part of my repertoire. I'm laying a bunt down right here. It's going to give me a little confidence. It's going to get a guy in scoring position. And if I go up there thinking about the fact that I've struggled against a particular pitcher, then that's the play for me. Andre Ethier, he's not a guy that bunts a lot, but he certainly has the capability of doing it. Now, maybe he sees him pretty well and just hasn't had success. Feels like he can hit that hole. But you got to change something. The game dictates what you do as a hitter.
And Bailey staying right in his kitchen.
If that had been a ball, I would think maybe even Don Mattingly would get involved and put a hit and run on. But since Bailey threw a strike and they got it to 1-2, we're not in that kind of count. But it's also a place where managers get involved with their hitters to try and get them out of slumps against certain guys. Especially against a guy like Bailey, who is around the strike zone tonight. He's not effectively a wild. He is pounding the zone.
Missed a spot there. 2-2.
Good spot for it right here. Figured he doesn't want to go 3-2. Probably going to throw a strike right here. Put the bat on the ball.
The guys that have command are the best guys to hit and run against. Takes one of the variables out of the equation.
Hits it hard down the right field line, but he hooks it foul. But a fun weekend for the folks here in Cincinnati. The grade 8 back in town, and the statue in honor of Hall of Famer Joe Morgan being unveiled yesterday. And now they're hoping their team can sweep the team that had been the hottest team in baseball coming in. The Reds looking to sweep the Dodgers and to make things even more congested and competitive in the National League Central. Jammed a bit, a lazy fly ball to center field. Chu is there, 1 down. Make Sunday extra special by going out to the ballpark. Go to MLB.com/Sunday to find special ticket offers. MLB.TV celebrating 11 years. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live on your favorite supported mobile and connected devices with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. Here's A.J. Ellis, a strikeout and a base hit. Slice down the right field line, out of play, as Ellis does something he doesn't do very often, and that's swing at the first pitch. He is a very patient hitter, works the count, and sees more pitches per plate appearance than any hitter in the National League.
We'll go back to that scoring opportunity when Hanley Ramirez had Adrian Gonzalez on first base. First pitch was a fastball, and he swung and hit a double in the gap. Those are the type of things you talk about. You might not feel comfortable, but that might be the best pitch that you get a chance to hit. Type of chatter and conversation goes on all the time on the bench.
Base hit into right field, and up to second goes Uribe.
Ellis doesn't get a lot of publicity, but he's one of the better catchers in the National League, and he is a baseball player. He understands his abilities and how to apply them to a game. Going against Homer Bailey, not trying to do too much, just putting that ball in play when he got a mistake up.
Conversation between Hannigan and Bailey. First and second, 1 out. Clayton Kershaw may not mean anything, but is up the stairs. And they may pinch hit for him depending on the situation here. You know, Don Mattingly was an American League player, but he's a National League manager. It's a whole different ball game here, as you guys both well know. Just a lot of decisions that have to be made in this league that don't have to be made in the American League, and Don Mattingly may be faced with a difficult one pretty soon, depending on what Mark Ellis does.
Well, there's action in the Dodger bullpen, not necessarily because Kershaw's coming out, but at least to get Homer Bailey to know that there is a possibility that a pinch hitter could be coming up, so Ellis gets better pitches. So you always get somebody up to deke the other manager and to camouflage what you might do to maybe get your 8th hitter some better pitches. They know the pinch hitter might come up for Kershaw. Ellis gets better pitches because the pinch hitters on the Dodgers bench might be better than Ellis.
Fredo Simon, the right-hander, Manny Parra, the left-hander, up in the Reds pen. It's been 3 games just like this on the weekend. Low scoring, close throughout. A fly ball to right field carries Bruce back. 2 down. Uribe will bluff and then get back to the bag. And Kershaw's coming to the plate.
Talk about Clayton Kershaw being one of the best pitchers in the league and a big game pitcher and a guy that can finish games. Many times you see this situation where the manager feels like, okay, you've given me 6 innings and you've pitched well. You know, I'm going to take you out of the game here for a pitcher, and that's the conservative move. That's the safe move to make. But you know, if you want your guys to go that extra yard and pitch those games and pitch those meaningful innings down late in the game and carry you to a pennant, this is what you have to do as a manager.
This is totally out of respect.
Go out there, compete with the bat, and continue to find it on the mound.
Pretty good hitting pitcher as well. He's 0 for 2 tonight, but he does lead all pitchers with 10 RBIs on the season. Hit a home run on opening day, so he is dangerous.
And you see with the Dodger pen quiet now that it was totally a deke to get Ellis some pitches. That this would be the reason Kershaw should be hit for now if they actually had somebody up in earnest.
One ball, 2 strikes on Kershaw. Look what I found. And he got a Jay Bruce t-shirt on as well. He's having a good night.
Yes, he is.
Go say thank you, son. Kind of respect pitch from Bailey there too. Busted him up and in.
2 out, nobody on. Pitcher leading off an inning. A little different pitch selection when it's 2-2 tie in the 7th.
Right.
Man in scoring position.
That's right.
He is not going to be treated like a pitcher here.
Yes, he did. Number 9 for Homer Bailey, but earlier this inning, Hanley Ramirez got a hold of a hanging, breaking ball and delivered it into the seats and left. 7th inning stretch, tie game. Reds always lurking throughout the season. They picked a pretty good time to play some of their best baseball. Hits it a tough for home run number 28. 6 consecutive strikeouts. It's another game that's had an October feel to it between a couple of teams who are on track to play in October. The Los Angeles Dodgers and the Cincinnati Reds are tied at 2. As we go to the bottom of the 7th, Homer Bailey was unbelievable early, retiring the first 11, 7 by strikeouts, still pitching well. Gave up the home run to Ramirez to tie it. Jay Bruce with a couple of solo home runs off Clayton Kershaw for all the Cincinnati offense tonight. Kershaw struck out to end the top of the 7th. The Dodgers left 2 men on, so he's back out there on the mound going to the bottom of the 7th. Doesn't have to worry about Bruce this inning. 7, 8, 9. Cozart, Hannigan, and then Bailey or a pinch hitter.
You know, Dan, and Kershaw has really struggled with his command, and he's given up 2 points to the same guy. I mean, that says everything about the competitor and about a guy going out there and being able to compete when he doesn't have his best stuff in his command.
He's walked 3, he's hit 1, he's struck out 6, he's committed a balk, and he's in a 2-2 tie in the 7th.
And he's got an ERA under 2 and got a chance to lead Major League Baseball 3 consecutive years in that category.
Here's Zach Cozart, who was 0 for 2 tonight. Shortstop comes in on a 12-game hitting streak. Check swing foul off, 0-2.
You know, the weapon that lurks in the Dodger minds now, Don Mattingly, is Billy Hamilton. Billy Hamilton is now the setup man almost for Aroldis Chapman as a pinch runner. Somebody can get on. He can get in scoring position with the stolen base. Get to the winning pieces in the bullpen then.
That's so true. Does he come back out though? Homer Bailey, is he done? Or is he coming back out?
That guy's going to decide pretty soon. Bailey due up 3rd. Curveball's lined into center field, a base hit.
I'm butting him over, and he's coming out right now.
It's not Hamilton time yet.
Maybe with Kershaw on the mound still, lefty.
Like I said, I'm already thinking. I'm butting this guy over. Runner in scoring position.
Yep.
Take my chances.
Ryan Hannigan. It down, and it's a good one. And the sacrifice will advance Cozart to second. Oh, the wheels are turning right now. What's Dusty Baker going to do? Neftali Soto, the September call-up, is out in the on-deck circle, and he's going to bat for Homer Bailey here as you check out his numbers with Louisville this year. Now remember, Ryan Ludwig's on the bench. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but he struggles against lefties, and he's really struggled against Kershaw. So instead of going to Ludwig, Dusty Baker's going to a rookie who just got called up from the minors.
You know, and sometimes this is a great move because the rookie just is just so green. He doesn't buy into the whole Clayton Kershaw facing him in this situation. He's just going up there and seeing that this is an opportunity to win a ball game. Sometimes it works in your favor.
Fastball for a strike. Soto was on the roster for 2 days in May, for 5 days in July, and then called back up on September the 2nd. The rest of the time he's been at AAA this year. Facing Kershaw. 0-2.
I don't think the Dodgers don't have a scouting report on him. He's got big time pop, but it doesn't. They don't want him to extend his arms. See his arms hang down way below his waist, so he's got some big arms, but you don't let him get them extended. Kershaw's been pounding him in there. I wouldn't be surprised if they come right back up in there.
Got him with a curveball.
They sped him up twice inside. Beat him in there, so he had to start early to catch up, and they get him out in front with the curveball at the end. Fastball in, let him see one. Now beat him to the spot in there again, and then drop the hammer on him.
Oh, by the way, this was a Clayton Kershaw that was really struggling today. You see that pitch sequence? These are the meaningful innings. This is when you know you have a winner.
And that's when you said at the beginning of the game, eliminate the fastball up because he can't throw it for a strike. And what does he have when it comes game time? He found it.
Absolutely.
Here's Chu. Kershaw's not retired him yet tonight. 2 walks and a base hit.
This is where he's got 2 hitters to get 1 out. That's Clayton Kershaw. First base open. No matter what the count is, Chu should still get a pitcher's pitch with first base open. Don Mattingly let him hit with 2 out runners in scoring position. He is really pulling for Clayton to get out of this inning. I left you out there because I thought you could put a 0 up, big guy. Deliver it.
Chu thought about it. He had plenty of time on that curveball. Took it and took a strike. Blocked by Ellis, and the runner back to second. Constant conversations. Mattingly and Honeycutt. Rusty Baker on the other side with his coaching staff.
If he walks him, do we bring in the righty? If we bring in the righty, is he going to pinch hit for Heisey? I think Kershaw throws a low fastball right here away and possibly locks him up.
And he hit him.
Threw a breaking ball.
Wow. Chu hit for the 24th time this season, and that'll put 2 men on for Heisey.
He was throwing a hard slider, and it just comes out of the top of his hand, and he knows it. He's found it tonight, but it hasn't been there every pitch.
Dodger bullpen is quiet. This is Clayton Kershaw's inning. He's at 100 pitches. $34,000 and change here at Great American Ballpark, hoping their Reds can sweep them. Keep pace with the Cardinals and move into a tie with the Pirates for second in the National League Central. Cardinals winning 9-2 over Pittsburgh earlier today. They swept the Pirates, and now Rick Honeycutt's going to get somebody up in the bullpen.
Kershaw earned the 2-out at bat with runners in scoring position last inning, and he has earned the attempt of getting Heisey out here.
Right-hander Chris Withrow is up for the second time tonight.
Talk about gutsy performances. I mean, this, regardless of what happens here, he gets out of this innings especially. This has been probably one of the more guttier performances that I've seen from Clayton Kershaw based on how this day started for him.
He couldn't throw the curveball for strikes early. He's found the curveball for a strike. And Earl, you talk about how not all innings are created equal, how not all pitches are created equal. He's had a lot of high stress, max effort type of situations tonight because of his lack of command at times.
Yeah. That curveball that he's going to, you think he keeps going back to the well. It's the hardest pitch to hit in the big leagues, batting average against. It's about .72 coming into this game.
Chopper to short, charged by Ramirez, inning over. 2 men left on. Kershaw gets out of it. 2-2 at the end of 7. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Bayer Advanced Aspirin, the official pain reliever of MLB. Try targeted relief with the power of Bayer Advanced Aspirin. And Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving. 2-2 going to the 8th inning, and a good one here in Cincinnati between the Reds and the Dodgers. Two very different but very impressive pitching performances in their own way. Homer Bailey will leave the game with a no decision.
He was outstanding tonight. He commanded the ball down with his fastball, his slider, and his changeup. He only made a few mistakes, and both of his mistakes were to Hanley Ramirez, a double, and then this hanging slider. That's a home run that tied the game. It's really Hanley Ramirez 2, Jay Bruce 2 in this game, but both Homer Bailey and Clayton Kershaw pitched very well.
Here's left-hander Zach Duke. He was released earlier this year by Washington. The Reds picked him up, sent him to AAA, released him, re-signed him, brought him up at the end of August, and he's pitched very well in limited appearances over the last 10 days or so. These are his combined numbers. He's done a good job for Cincinnati. All of a sudden they've got Duke, they've got Parra, they're hoping to get Marshall back. Of course, Chapman, he's their closer, but a left-hander as well. All of a sudden Dusty Baker's got a lot of different looks down there.
A lot of left-handed power, offensive power in the National League. You want to offset that with a lot of different options in the bullpen, and Zach Duke just gives you another lefty. Not a guy that's going to light up the scoreboard, but a guy that's been around. Throw the ball down in the zone, Curveball, a little slider, sinker, and cut the fastball.
Top of the order for the Dodgers: Crawford, Puig, Gonzalez. And he got it. Crawford, thinking it was low, throws on a pitch at the knees.
Little drop down breaking ball from Zach Duke, and boy, this kept bending and bending and bending, and Crawford didn't think that it got there, but it made it back. And not only made it back, it was high enough.
Nice job. That's all for Duke. Dusty Baker's made the move. He's got the right-hander J.J. Hoover warming up. Yasiel Puig due to hit for the Dodgers, and we'll step aside in a 2-2 tie here in the 8th. He's a guy who has certainly taken the baseball world by storm over the last 3 months. A package of abilities you don't often see in one ball player. A rookie. He's been Rookie of the Month in the National League twice. He's been Player of the Month in the National League once this year. And his hitting coach Mark McGuire says he can pretty much do anything he wants to with the bat. He's got the power, he's got the arm, he's got the speed, he's got the energy. And here he comes right now to face J.J. Hoover in a tie game here in the 8th inning. We tonight 0 for 2, also hit by a pitch. Hoover got the win for Cincinnati yesterday. Don't know if he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Again, he didn't come up until early June, and there are some very, very good candidates, including Jose Fernandez, the young fireballer with the Miami Marlins. But Puig will certainly be in the running as Hoover makes his 60th appearance of the season.
The question is, does Yasiel Puig have the discipline? And I think that any major league player that has all that potential kind of puts it together by being disciplined, harnessing all that unbridled ability. The question we were talking to his manager, Mattingly, earlier.
So you don't just mean plate discipline, you mean life discipline.
Just in every
discipline,
single facet. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you prepare for the game. You don't just show up and go. You got to prepare for it. You got to live it. You got to think it in order to be the best in the game. There are no shortcuts. You can have all the ability in the world. I know we both have seen a lot of players with tremendous ability, but putting it on that field every single day,
it's a grind.
It is.
Big swing and a miss, 2-1.
Don Mattingly said he will be the same player he is in 2 years, or he will be a much better player than he is right now. Much more disciplined player than he is right now. I asked Don about his ability to communicate with Yasiel Puig, his ability to speak Spanish, and he told me he can't. He said, yet. going to make the point to learn to be able to communicate with his players.
And you asked him an interesting question, I thought. You asked him if Puig knows how good a player Don Mattingly was.
Yes. He didn't really answer that like, yes. Those guys talk.
As if Puig would respect him more because...
Absolutely, because he's done it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've always felt if Mattingly's back problems hadn't ended his career prematurely, he'd be going to Cooperstown with you every summer.
Yeah, he was a fantastic player. Yep. Kirk Gibson, one of 2 managers to win the MVP. We were talking earlier about Yasiel Puig and talking about guys said that like when he runs down the base paths, they can hear him coming like a freight train. Well, I had the unfortunate opportunity to turn a double play when Kirk Gibson was running in the second base. Pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Big guy, heard him coming, get out of the way.
Tie game, 8th inning, full count. Puig facing Hoover, Gonzalez on deck. Nice enthusiastic crowd here in Cincinnati tonight in the battle of 2 contenders in the National League. Popped him up. Foul territory. Playable. 2 down. So this was interesting. Dusty Baker had a decision as we get another look at the pop-up. He could have left the lefty Duke to face Puig and then had the lefty to face Gonzalez, or brought in the righty to face Puig and then had to leave the righty to face Gonzalez. And he chose to put Puig at the disadvantage more than Gonzalez, really.
Well, J.J. Hoover has been very hot for Dusty Baker. He has a franchise record 23 games in a row this year where he didn't give up a run. That's for a right-hander. So he has been an integral part of this Reds bullpen, and he has a lot of confidence in this young man.
Gonzalez tonight 1 for 3. Curveball for a strike.
The 23 games in a row from Hoover wasn't like at the beginning of the year. It was just broken on August 20th. So he's been hot through the middle of the year.
Slow bouncer. Hoover. Inning over. Good job by the Reds, pen in the 8th. 3-4-5 coming up for Cincinnati in a tie game. This work is over for Clayton Kershaw. He will not come back out for the bottom of the 8th inning. He'll get a no decision. Those numbers don't tell the story. How much he battled tonight. He also hit 2 batters. He committed a balk. But he has given his team to stay in the game, as did Homer Bailey. Kershaw, though, appeared to be fighting his command more than Bailey did tonight. So he is done for the night as Don Mattingly goes to his bullpen. For Chris Withrow, right-hander, who's been a real pleasant surprise for the Dodgers this year. On Friday night, he pitched 2 innings and he struck out 5. Spent part of the year at AAA, part of the year with the Dodgers. And he gets a chance to come in here and face Votto, Phillips, and Bruce in a tough game. Tough job.
Hard-throwing right-hander, you come into the game. Late in the ball game, you become a cripple hitter. That means you're looking for one pitch and one location. He's a guy that is proud of his fastball. Get a fastball up in the zone. Look to be aggressive early.
A little down and in for ball 1. Votto was 4 for 4 with 5 walks in the first 2 games of this series. 0 for 3 tonight. Catches the outside corner, a ball and a strike. Way upstairs for ball 2. Dusty Baker's got his bullpen active again. Aroldis Chapman, the hardest thrower in baseball. Just low. 3 balls and a strike.
The walk and being a little erratic, something that Withrow can do an awful lot. And it's the one thing the Dodgers worry about. And with a guy like Votto up there with a great eye, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes this and forces the 3-2 count if he can make him throw a strike.
And a bouncer to first. Votto 0 for 4. Now Brandon Phillips.
You see Juan Uribe go to the mound. Make sure you tell Withrow about this guy. Listen, this is a guy that wants to jump on that #1 heater. He's an RBI producer. Best breaking ball hitter is a guy that doesn't miss the fastball. So looking for that fastball early in the count and let it fly.
Started him off with something with a wrinkle to it. A hard slider. Is that a 90-mile-an-hour slider?
Yep. That's what he threw Votto to in the 3-1 count. You saw a 90 pop up there. Don't be fooled. This 96 is the fastball.
That's that veteran presence at third base. Juan Uribe. Partner and some knowledge right there.
Oh, and 2. See Joey Votto down in the dugout here. Dusty Baker talking to Jay Bruce, trying to tell him a little bit about Withrow, getting Bruce ready for his at-bat.
He told Jay, he said, Jay, you already got 2 home runs, man. Come on now. It's like the trifecta right here.
Telling him that 3-1 fastball wasn't a fastball. That ball came in on me. A hard slider.
Chris Withrow, former #1 draft pick, was working as a starter down to the minors, has now come to the big league as a reliever. And again, has helped solidify. Doesn't generally pitch this late in games, although he's pitched so well. He's getting some bigger and bigger roles coming in here in a tie game in the 8th inning. And again, Don Mattingly's got the luxury of an 11.5 game lead. Phillips wouldn't chase. The crowd here wants to see 3 things. They want to see Billy Hamilton run. They want to see Aroldis Chapman pitch. and they want to see their team sweep the Dodgers. There's Hamilton, ready if needed. Chapman warming in the pen. Tie game, bottom 8.
Don't let him get those arms extended, huh? I guess that's the thought.
They started him with the slider, but they've never really gone back to it. But if you have to throw it for a strike, you don't want to do that to Brandon Phillips. You don't want to throw him that cripple slider. They're crowding him or trying to make him swing and miss away.
And he threw him one, actually left it up, but a very awkward looking swing from Phillips to strike out.
Well, right there, you get a 90-mile-an-hour slider. You're thinking fastball. This young guy's going to throw me a fastball. Oh, he fooled me. Let's commit it to the fastball.
He was not only committed to the fastball, I think he's committed the fastball in, and that was an emergency hack. That was an oh no.
That was you got me. That happens.
Now the man of the night so far offensively for the Reds, Jay Bruce. He's got 2 solo home runs. And swinging for number 3 right there. Let's take a look.
Well, pitches up. You saw his hot zone earlier in the day, and there were pitches up in the zone that he see the fastball in, and then the slider up and away. Jay Bruce likes the ball up, specifically against left-handed pitchers.
Withrow challenging him twice, and the count is 0-2. You can see Ellis wanted Withrow to elevate that fastball, but too high for Bruce to bite.
Go right back up there, or you go slider in the dirt, but you do not throw him a strike on this pitch. You know that theory, Barry.
Went up there again, 2-2.
Such a cat and mouse game. Just thinking the game, trying to think along with the pitcher. The thing that you have to concern yourself with is overthinking. Much like what happened to Brandon Phillips right there. Thinking maybe fastball in, and he gets a slider, hanging slider out over the plate, and can't pull the trigger. So you just want to think, anticipate, but see the ball and hit the ball.
3-2.
Okay, O, what are you coming with here, buddy?
I'm going to throw hard with 96. I'm going to make him beat me to the opposite field. I'm going to throw hard fastball low and away. If it happens to come up and away, I got a chance to still get a weak fly ball. I don't want to speed up your bat and throw you that 90-mile-an-hour slider, let you hit a home run where you already hit 2.
And he got him to swing and miss at a letter-high fastball to end the inning. Withrow gets him in order. We're at the end of 8 now in Cincinnati, and it remains the Dodgers 2, the Reds 2. More Major League action comes your way this week on ESPN as the hunt for October continues. We've got a doubleheader on a Wednesday. The Red Sox and Rays at 7 Eastern, then the Diamondbacks and Dodgers at 10 Eastern. 1 week from tonight will be at Fenway Park as the Red Sox take on the Yankees. Well, excitement building here in Cincinnati because one of the guys they love to come see, Aroldis Chapman, and his 100+ mile-an-hour fastball into the game here in the top of the 9th. In a 2-2 tie. At home, once you reach this part of the game in a tie, there are no more save situations. Dusty Baker actually worked Chapman 4 consecutive days earlier this week. Didn't seem to take away from his velocity at all. He was routinely up over 100 miles an hour, and there is nobody in baseball who has thrown more pitches with triple digits this year than the man you're looking at right now.
Not only just triple digits, but well executed fastballs. Now, it's not just 100 miles an hour right down the middle, although swinging at 100 right down the middle is still difficult to hit. It's up and away, it's up and in.
You can see nearly a quarter of his pitches this year have been 100 miles an hour or above. He's got 99 strikeouts this year. Kenley Jansen of the Dodgers is the only guy with more among relievers. He's got 100. And this should be fun right off the bat. Hanley Ramirez is up 2 for 3 tonight, a double and a homer, having a great year. And facing Chapman.
And looking for a fastball. Just get your arms extended. Look for it up. Just extend your hands.
Loosening up at 99.
Good luck extending on that fastball. But we talked about it a little earlier. You know, a lot of the hitters is about not letting them extend those hands and get that barrel to the ball.
Can you explain to the viewer what you see when somebody throws 100 compared to somebody throwing 90?
Not much.
It's just a shorter blur.
You know, it really you don't really pick up the rotation. You just try to beat when you face a guy that throws 100 as opposed to a guy that throws 90. You're simply trying to beat him, the guy that throws 100, to the spot. You're trying to pick up the fastball, a guy that throws 90 miles an hour, 92 miles an hour. You're trying to pick the ball up out of his hand. You're trying to do that from a 100-mile-an-hour pitcher also. But more importantly, instead of just seeing the ball all the way to the point of contact, you're trying to beat the pitcher to a spot. And if you can do that, that makes you more short and quick to that spot and gives you a chance to hit the ball.
Unleashed one at 101 to the backstop.
Fortunately, didn't face too many guys that threw 100 miles an hour.
Maybe we shouldn't sit in these seats with Chapman's pitching.
Yeah. Wonder what that net is rated at.
Got it.
You see guys offering at that high fastball because you just don't have time. You can see him throwing up in the zone. There's 100 right down the middle. You know what he's trying to do. You're trying to beat him to that spot, but it's hard to catch up to that high fastball. And that's the one you think you can't catch up because it's closer to your eyes. I think physically that ball's closer to me so I can hit it, and that's not true.
On Uribe, swing and a miss.
Hard to do as a hitter facing 100 miles an hour. You have to not try to swing as hard. Don't try to swing as hard as he's throwing the ball.
That's not Juan Uribe's playbook, though.
Yeah. Short and quick.
It's funny for them.
It's amusing. Yep. You ain't got to hit it. Johnny Cueto over there laughing.
First of all, you got to be brave enough to get in the box.
Yeah.
Now Andre Ethier. Maybe the only thing worse than facing Chapman is being a left-handed batter and having to face Chapman. Lefties.
Orioles over here shaking his head.
This is like,
yeah.
It's not fair.
Chapman has allowed a 112 batting average in his career against left-handed batters.
this reminds me of our other partner, John Kruk, when he had to face Randy Johnson in the All-Star game.
I was on deck.
Were you?
And I was hoping and praying that he would make the third out of the inning, which he did. Yeah, not much to say.
If you have something to say, say it now, because I don't think this at-bat's going to last much longer.
Down to third. Inning over. 3 up, 3 down to go the Dodgers, and we're going to the bottom of the ninth. Now here at Great American Ballpark, the Reds looking for a run to win it. If you're tuning in looking for Sports Center, it is currently airing over on ESPN News, and you can get all the details on the Cowboys and Giants battling in the Big D tonight. A good game between the 49ers and the Packers to get their NFL season started, and the Yankees blow a lead but win a game they desperately needed to win against the Red Sox today. Here we are going to the bottom of the ninth here in Cincinnati, tied at 2. The right-hander Ronald Belisario. He of the, quote, bowling ball sinker, that heavy two-seam fastball, gets a ton of ground balls in to face Todd Frazier to begin the inning. Tell the folks at home who don't know, Oral, what does that mean, a bowling ball sinker?
It's got a lot of spin on it, and Barry will tell you how it feels to hit.
Very heavy. Heavy on the hands. You want that nice, light, crisp contact out in front. Well, you get a guy to throw that bowling ball. A little more thud, a little more vibration in the hands.
I think it's really hard to get it on the sweet spot of the bat. It's got a little late movement and makes it vibrate. But he gets on. We're going to get some Billy Hamilton time, I think. We're going to have some speed on the bases. Pinch runner.
Whoops. Now looking back at his landing point on the mound. Hamilton, the speedster, ready if needed. 4 major league appearances, all as a pinch runner. 4 stolen bases. Scored 3 runs, 2 of them game winners. Stole 75 bases at AAA this year. Stole 155 bases last year between Single A and Double A.
We asked Don Mattingly about Billy Hamilton. How did he describe him?
A pain.
A pain?
Yeah. Popped up by Frazier. Chased the ball up and in for out number 1. Now Cozart extended his hitting streak to a 13-gamer with a base hit his last time up. Well, if these games are any indication, if these two were to meet in the postseason, it might be a whole lot of fun. One-run wins for the Reds on Friday and yesterday. And a tight affair again here tonight. Bailey and Kershaw, the starters, both went 7, both no decision, obviously. Just missed.
The top 2 starting rotations in baseball. The Dodgers and the Reds, as far as ERA is concerned.
Both teams very deep. Veterans on the bench. Pieces. Billy Hamilton. D. Gordon with the Dodgers.
Here's a base hit. And will Dusty bring him in? Doesn't look like it. Johnny Cueto wants him in.
As soon as Zach Cozart gets that base hit, I saw Billy Hamilton look down. Hey, Skip, I'm down here. I'm down. Yeah, man, sit down. You'll be all right.
Let's go down to Buster Olney.
Hey, guys, it wasn't only Billy Hamilton looking at Dusty Baker. A.J. Ellis looked at Dusty Baker. The entire Reds bench looked at Dusty Baker.
There's Ryan Hannigan with Xavier Paul out in the on-deck circle right now. The Reds looking to scratch across a run and win it here in the bottom of the 9th. There's a base hit down the left field line. This ball's hit hard, and it's going to the corner. Cozart around third on his way home, and the Reds win it. The Cincinnati Reds sweep the Los Angeles Dodgers, winning 3 consecutive one-run games. And Ryan Hannigan can't wipe the smile off his face, and who can blame him? A game-winning RBI double to score Zach Cozart in the bottom of the 9th. Cincinnati keeps pace with St. Louis. They move into a tie with Pittsburgh for second in the division, and the Dodgers have lost 4 in a row. And as it turns out, Billy Hamilton's services weren't needed. Ryan Hannigan took care of that, hitting the ball hard enough to score Cozart from first.
I tell you, this is all about winning baseball. Hannigan gets a ball. We talked about that turbo sinker, that bowling ball. Looks like he cheated for the ball inside. Kept it fair down the left field line, and Zach Cozart with plenty of speed able to score from first base. Nice way to seal up a win.
Somebody other than Bruce drove a run in.
And what a week it has been for the Reds, taking 3 out of 4 from the Cardinals and now sweeping the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's go down to the field and Buster.
Jay Bruce, coming into tonight, Clayton Kershaw hadn't allowed a single home run to a left-handed hitter. You hit 2.
I don't really know how to explain it. We were just talking about, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and my approach against him is just take what he gives you and try to make the best out of what you get, and I was able to tonight, so it was a big win for us.
big win and a sweep of the Dodgers. What does it do for you?
I think it just continues to show us, and not that, we needed to be shown, but, we know we're a good baseball team, and we know that we can play with anyone, and we believe that we're the best team in the league. And, every win is important these days. Every win is important in September. We're beating very good teams, schedule lets up a little bit, but then, 6 of the last 9 with the Pirates is going to obviously be important, and we just need to, help ourselves as much as we can along the way.
Tell me what you saw in that last play.
Oh, man, I saw Mark Berry waving his arm to score him. Everyone did a great job. I mean, this game was such a well-pitched game. Not very many mistakes from either side. 2 very, very good pitchers, and we were able to squeak it out, so I'm excited.
You've been on the field for some special things from Homer Bailey. Did you think that might be tonight?
Homer did great. Homer did great, and it's pretty crazy to think that I've been a part of 2. Well, I've been a part of 3 no-hitters. I've been no-hit one of the times, but Homer's 2 no-hitters. That's amazing. He's really grown as a pitcher, and he's one of the guys we can hand the ball to, and really expect him to keep us in the game all game. He's done a great job of that all year.
Jay, thanks. Back to you.
Buster, thank you. Jay Bruce with a couple of home runs, but it's Ryan Hannigan with a game-winning RBI double in the bottom of the 9th, and he is our Chevrolet player of the game. What a moment for Hannigan. Came into the game hitting .212 and doubles in the winning run as Zach Kozar beats the throat of the plate, and the Reds sweep the LA Dodgers and just keep on winning. What a week for the Reds. They have won 6 out of 7, putting the pressure on the Cardinals and the Pirates in the National League Central. We got a doubleheader for you Wednesday. Red Sox and Rays, D-backs and Dodgers. Sports Center is next on ESPN. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Good night.